Yep.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for our city council meeting. We'll go ahead and get started. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Here.
Lorick. Here.
Mangum. Mansfield.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Paulson.
Here.
Black.
Here. If you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, after which, if you'd remain standing for the invocation, which will be offered by President Robert Briscoe, representing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. President, if you would go on the other side of that. There you go. Thank you.
Our Father in heaven, as we meet here this evening as members of a council and citizens of this great town, we would ask for a spirit of peace, of knowledge, of understanding, and a blessing upon this room this evening. Father, may we discuss those matters at hand civilly. May the decisions and outcomes of this evening be one that is best for all who are here and attending. We are blessed to live in such a beautiful area, grateful for this building, for all that we have and we enjoy. Father, be with us this evening as we depart to our individual homes as well. We are grateful for all that we have, and we say these things humbly in the name of our Lord and Savior, even Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay, we will move to agenda item number 3 is the consent agenda. Oh, before I go on, if you are here for agenda item number 9, that item has been pulled from the agenda. Well, he's got a sheet right next to you there. We'll move to agenda item number 3 is a consent agenda. The following business items may be approved by one motion and a vote. If any one member of the council so desires, any matter listed can be moved to a separate agenda item. A, minutes. Council may wish to waive the oral reading of the minutes and approve the minutes from the clarification and regular city council meetings of March 7, 2024, and the special city council meeting of May 9, 2024. B, material claims. Council may wish to approve the material claims for the period of May 1 through 15, 2024. C, Animal Shelter Advisory Board appointment. Council may wish to confirm the mayor's appointment of Timothy Scudo to serve as a member of the Animal Shelter Advisory Board, replacing Sharon Engel, whose term expired. Timothy's term will begin May 17, 2024, and expire May 17, 2026. D, Housing Alliance and Community Partnership appointment. Council may wish to confirm the mayor's appointment of Michelle Pond Bell to serve as a member of the Housing Alliance and Community Partnership, replacing Steve Ernst, who resigned. Michelle's term will begin May 17, 2024, and expire May 5, 2028. E, Pocatello Arts Council reappointment. Council may wish to confirm the mayor's reappointment of Stacy Barker to continue serving as a member of the Pocatello Arts Council. Stacy's term will begin May 7, 2024, and expire May 7, 2027. F, council decision rezone of property located at 669 West Quinn Road, building number 12. Council may wish to adopt this decision approving a request from the Pocatello Quinn LLC to amend the zoning designation of a portion of building 12 located at 669 West Quinn Road from industrial I to commercial general CG. G, council decision vacation of right-of-way for Craft Road. Council may wish to adopt this decision approving the vacation and abandonment, I can't say that tonight, of the public's interest in the right-of-way of approximately 0.63 acres located at the northern end of Craft Road and distributing said vacated land to the adjacent owner, Savage Transload Network LLC, subject to conditions. H, council decision amendment annexing property located along Craft Road and Gaithy Road. Council may wish to adopt this adopt an amendment to its decision annexing land located at along Craft Road and Gaethy Road. The subject property will be zoned residential medium-density multifamily RMM and residential commercial professional RCP with concurrent comprehensive plan land use map designations of residential R and mixed-use MU respectively. I, Resolution 2024, destruction of city records. Council may wish to adopt a resolution providing for the destruction of temporary records pursuant to Idaho Code 50-907 and the city records policy.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Councilmember Cheatham.
Mr. Mayor, I move for approval of the consent agenda items A through I as listed in agenda item 3.
Second.
We've got a motion by Cheatham and a second by Lurick. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Cheatham,
Yes.
Lorick,
Yes.
Mansfield.
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Thank you. Proclamations. We have one proclamation. Tonight's proclamation is Public Works Week, and it will be read by Councilmember Cheatham.
Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Pocatello, Idaho. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Pocatello to gain knowledge of and to maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association and Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Brian C. Bladd, Mayor of Pocatello, do hereby proclaim May 19 to 25, 2024 as National Public Works Week in Pocatello and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all.
Want to say a thing? Oh, whoa, we're supposed to, come over here where you belong. I guess we- There you go. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to say a few
I
minutes.
bet you do.
Mayor and council, thank you so much for this proclamation. As I moved forward in my career, there was many things that came about in public works and articles that we read from the beginning of time that came in to start bringing water to our facilities, sanitation to our facilities and our areas and stuff. And just a few things as we are worried about our water system and that. And in the middle of the night, in the blizzard, water breaks, you've got our crews out there. They're down in the trenches. You got WPC that's trying to do the same thing, doing their cleanup in there. You've got our snow plows and street operations, dodging traffic that are coming through the cones. You've got all hours of the night with the plows. And our refuge, the garbage pickup. As a city employee, I am very touched every time that I am home on a holiday, on a Monday when it's picked up, and those guys are still working. And I just know that as the public works are kind of first responders too. They're there, the water, it gets to the fire, the police, the barricades, and everything. And I'd just like to thank the recognition in this proclamation.
Thank you. Very well said, Merrill. Thank you. We'll move to agenda item 5 is a calendar review. Council may wish to take this opportunity to inform other council members of upcoming meetings and events that should be called to their attention. May 20, 11 a.m. will be a City Council special meeting. May 23, 9 a.m. will be a budget development meeting. June 3, 4, 5, and 6, 9 a.m. budget development meetings. June 6, 5:30 p.m. will be a council clarification meeting. 6 p.m. will be a regular city council meeting. As a reminder, the regular city council meeting scheduled for June 20th has been canceled. Let's see, other events, May 24 through 27 will be the Field of Heroes at Century High School. May 25, Ross Park Aquatic Center opens for the season, weather permitting. Probably rain because we made the announcement. but- May 27th, city offices will be closed for Memorial Day holiday. However, garbage, compost, and recycling pickups will be on schedule. Brooklands Playground at OK Ward Park will be closed for resurfacing through May 31st. Zoo Idaho is now open 7 days a week. Dog licenses will expire June 1st. Half-price dog licenses are being offered during the month of May. Licenses may be purchased at City Hall or the animal shelter. And a big congratulations to all high school graduates throughout our area. Okay, we'll move to agenda item 6. Before I read the title of agenda item 6, we had a sign-up sheet right over here, and we had a number of people sign up for this. This sign-up sheet is for agenda item number 18. So, it's okay that you signed up on here. I just want you to pay attention because I think some are looking to speak during the public hearing. And so we appreciate you signing up here. We're going to ask you to sign a sheet up here as well for it. Just pay attention to what public hearing we're on when we're there. We've got
Do you mean 8?
18?
You said 18.
18 or whatever it is, the items from the audience.
Okay.
So the public hearing that you have a desire to speak at, please pay attention. I do roll through those fairly quickly, and so I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to say something if they would like to. Okay, clear as mud, everybody, I think? Okay. We'll move to agenda item 6 then is a public hearing, proposed fiscal year 2024 May budget amendments. This time has been set aside for the council to hear comments from the public regarding proposed fiscal year 2024 budget amendment. I declare the public hearing open. Would look. What? Yeah, Bonnie.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bonnie Schrader, Senior Accountant, Finance Department. I'm presenting the proposed fiscal year 2024 budget amendments. This is the second budget amendment request for this current fiscal year. The first one was passed in January. The budget amendment process is similar to the budget process where a public notice and hearing are required for the passage of the appropriation ordinance. Amendments must adhere to the balanced budget requirements. The proposed amendments were published in the Idaho State Journal on May 8th and yesterday on May 15th. The council has received budget amendment packet, and it has also been posted on the city website as of May 7th. The proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2024 budget total $3,307,353 and affect 15 funds with 33 asks. The asks consist of 13 requests for reimbursements to the departments for unplanned employee departures, authority to use appropriated funds for purchases not previously budgeted, and spending authority for new unbudgeted grants and revenue received this year. Because we set a tight budget, amendments are part of a healthy budget management and normal city operations. When the city adopts its annual budget, it serves as a financial plan for the upcoming year. It's never possible to fully anticipate every grant situation. Circumstances change, which lead to the need for budget amendments. That includes my presentation. Happy to help with any questions.
Questions, council? Okay, thank you. Don't go far. We may have some questions at the end. Oh, I'm sorry, Bonnie. Have you received any written,
No, we have not.
Madam Clerk, have we received any written correspondence? Okay, super. Thank you. Then I would look for any testimony supporting the application. Any testimony uncommitted to the application. Any testimony opposed to the application.
Some of it went too fast, so I didn't really understand all of it, but I'm mainly opposing in regards to the unplanned employee departures. This is like the second time this has happened, and a lot of it has to do with benefit payouts. And I am strictly opposed to all public service benefits because we don't get any just compensation back according to our 4th and 5th Amendments. And 6th. I mean, nobody pays my vacation or sick leave, retirement, or pop water and coffee in my break room, whatever. We have a lot of people who can't even afford to buy food or pay rent. And granted, they have paid their own funds into these accounts, but I am strongly opposed to public service benefits and unplanned retirement or departures, whatever it is. And also regarding some of the funding that comes in that you're amending this budget on, a lot of it, I'm trying to find out where it came from because I'm strictly opposed to a lot of the federal grants because it has these different controls that takes away our liberties. And we end up paying out more and losing more of our freedoms because of it. And so that's why I've not been able to see it online or whatever, things like that. So those are my main concerns for opposing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application?
Good evening, Council. Heather Disselkoon. I am mostly uncommitted to these budget amendments, but I'm speaking opposed due to the inclusion of the $1 million in funding for workers' comp. This decision should have been made in a separate noticed agenda item before being included in this budget amendment because it represents an unbudgeted expenditure from reserves and one not previously discussed in a public meeting. No one asked why this was necessary at the work session. For the past 4 years that I've attended meetings, every year the council was asked to increase the multiplier to bring the workers' comp fund to a place where it is fully funded. In 21, the modifier was at 75%, and it was approved to increase the modifier by 10% for the next 2 years. In 22, the modifier was reported at 85%, and a 7.5% multiplier for the next 2 years was requested. In 23, the modifier was reported at 90%, that it should be at 100 to 120%, and a request for 5% increase was approved. I hope you see the pattern here. The percentage is going down year by year. What necessitated a $1 million transfer now? Workers' comp funds are an ongoing expense that should not be reliant upon reserves to be funded. I do not believe budget amendments should be used to bypass this discussion because anytime funds are taken from reserves, the decision should not be made in a silo, but in context of other needs, wants, already in line for possible reserve use. There was only one question from council about the entire $3.3+ million budget amendment, and that concerns me. Are you considering these individual decisions within the larger context? Here are just a few of the questions that would have given me greater confidence. How much is in the general fund reserve fund as unallocated available fund balance? How much is in Fund 78? How much of the total in Fund 78 is departmental savings versus unallocated funding? Is the vendor honoring the FY21 price for the new Parks game mower you've been waiting 3 years for? Why are the Huber screw press expenditures not budgeted? Was the purchase of these items included in the last rate study? My opposition to the budget amendment is not because I contest the expenses, but because I did not hear you asking substantive questions to better inform yourselves or members of the public. I would like to thank the Finance Department for the improvements made to the budget amendment documents. It is very much appreciated and much clearer to understand.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application? Okay, Bonnie, you want to come and answer a couple questions?
I appreciate the questions and any interest anyone has in budgeting. For the unplanned employee departures, that is part of our benefit package. And the departments do budget for a transfer that goes into this fund for the unplanned employee departures. So they can't really tell when they get those or how many they're gonna get. So that's why we have to do a budget amendment for that. I think the other question was where the revenue came from. And the one revenue, I think, is the Parks Department.
I think the question was more around the $1 million for the
That was Heather's question. I was still on
oh, I'm
Nikki's.
sorry, there's a second one from Nikki.
Yeah, just the Parks Department, where they got the revenue was a donation to reimburse a memorial bench placed at Riverside Golf Course, that's all in the budget packet. Heather's questions, the $1 million funding, that the Finance Department has been trying to go through all of our policies and bring those up to how they should be. And on Resolution 2016-7, it was to establish a policy for reserves. And in that, on item number 8, the Workers' Compensation Fund, Reserve Fund shall accumulate and maintain a balance of $1,500,000 for the payment of potential workers' compensation claims covered by the city's self-insured program. So that $1 million is to bring that up to our policy.
Well, and if I remember right, that $1 million also is coming from unanticipated interests
Yes, correct.
from the investments, and so,
From how,
Yeah.
we've been working the investments better, so.
And I would just add to that, that was thoroughly discussed by the Audit and Investment Committee and then also presented here to the council and discussed again.
Good point. Yep.
okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Is there anything else that you, okay. Thank you. And I declare the public hearing closed. We'll move to agenda item number 7 is a public hearing, Idaho Community Development Block Grant, ICDBG CARES application submission and fair housing resolution. This time has been set aside for the council to receive public comment regarding the city's application for ICDBG CARES Act funding for the installation of public restroom facilities at parks located in lower and moderate income areas. A written public comment period began on April 24, 2024, and concluded May 16, 2024. This public hearing will provide an oral comment opportunity for the proposal. All feedback will be included in the application. After the hearing, council may wish to approve submission of the application and adopt a Fair Housing Act resolution and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review. I declare the public hearing open.
Good evening, Mayor Blatt and members of the City Council. My name is Christine Howe, and I'm the Grants Manager for the City of Pocatello. As described by the mayor, this public hearing provides a comments opportunity for the city's application for the Idaho Community Development Block Grant, or ICDBG application. The state of Idaho's CDBG program received Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Securities, or CARES Act funding for public parks for resiliency projects that must improve, expand, and/or create outdoor recreation opportunities that will help the community increase their long-term resiliency and ability to mitigate future coronavirus outbreaks. The projects are required to meet U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, low to moderate income area-wide benefit national objectives. The city is eligible to apply for the ICDBG CARES Act funding and has identified parks in qualifying low and moderate income areas. Upon reviewing the identified LMA areas, it was determined that the top priority needs for these parks that would meet ICDBG program requirements was at OK Ward Park, NOP Park, Tiedemann/Optimus Park, and Lower Ross Park near Pleasureland for the installation of restroom facilities at these locations. Based on current estimates, the ICDBG grant of $250,000 would cover all of the project costs. Per the city's adopted CDBG Citizen Participation Plan in accordance with the HUD requirements, the city has posted a draft of this grant application for written comment period for at least 15 days and will conclude public comments with this hearing tonight. Copies of this application have been made available for the public to access at the Marshall Public Library, NeighborWorks Pocatello, Life Inc., the Housing Authority, at City Hall, and on the city website. The comment period began on April 24th, 2024 at noon and concludes with this oral comment opportunity tonight. To date, we have received no written comments. Following tonight's hearing, all comments received will be reviewed and incorporated into the application as applicable. And at the conclusion of the hearing, council may wish to approve submission of the application and the accompanying documents, including an updated fair housing resolution. This concludes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions.
Yes, Brent.
Hi. So is the Fair Housing Act resolution tied to this CARES Act application?
Yes, so our city has adopted Fair Housing Act resolutions in the past under the CDBG program, but for this specific application, they asked us to adopt another resolution.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Christine? Okay, thank you. Then I would look for any of those supporting the application. You know what, I messed up. Madam Clerk, have we received any written?
No correspondence.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll go to supporting the application. Any uncommitted to the application? Any opposed to the application?
Hi, Nikki Taysom, thank you. I'm opposed to the application because once again, it is unconstitutional funding taken from we the people and being distributed out through grant processes, which takes away our freedom and controls. We had no voice in this, and the fact that it's coronavirus type things, again, it's just another method of using control. Same with HUD. And if we wanted, and every park should have some kind of an outhouse situation, it should be set in a budget, and then we get that presented to us, and we approve or disapprove it, and then take a census, and then divide that cost equally among all of each household. It's called a poll tax, what our country used to do. Then it's fair and across the board, and we all have a say in what happens. It's supposed to stay at the local level. The federal government has very minimal responsibility other than defending and upholding our Constitution, rights, protections under it, and our national security. And the fact that it's only for areas of low or moderate income, you know, we're all Americans. This is the people that usually are funding the taxes are those who have employment, who pay from what they earn. And I'm not being negative in any way. A lot of people on low income or moderate, a lot of them don't, and in fact, a lot of them are on assistance. And so I'm not trying to deprive anybody of a bathroom. I'm trying to get back under the Constitution and rights and protections and freedoms under it, and everybody succeeds. Thank you, and I share it in the name of Jesus. Stick with the Constitution.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application? Okay. Do you want to say anything else?
I'll just add that this is a unique funding opportunity for us. We typically are not eligible to apply for state CDBG funding, but because it was a separate federal appropriation that made us eligible for this, so we were able to identify these projects, which we do not have other funding for, So this was a good grant opportunity for us, and we selected the areas based off of the HUD requirements and criteria for those parks. So,
Okay, thank you. I declare the public hearing closed. Council, this item is before you. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr.
Josh?
Mayor, I would move for approval of Agenda Item 7, thereby approving the submission of the application to the ICDGB CARES Act funding, adopting a Fair Housing Act resolution, and authorizing your signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mansfield and a second, I think Rick got that, by Cheatham. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Mansfield,
Yes.
Cheatham,
Yes.
Lorick,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move to agenda item 8, public hearing, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Preservation and Reinvestment Initiative for Community Enhancement and Grant Proposal. This time has been set aside for the council to hear comments from the public regarding the city's draft price grant proposal. The hearing will include a discussion of the need of the project, the application process, and the project scope of work, location, funding, budget, schedule, and expected benefits. All comments received will be considered and incorporated into the final draft application, which will come before the council at the next meeting for consideration of submission. I declare the public hearing open.
Mayor Blatt, members of the City Council, Christine Howe, Grants Manager. As described by the mayor, this hearing provides a comment opportunity for the public regarding the city's application for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, Preservation and Reinvestment Initiative for Community Enhancement Competition, also known as the PRICE grant. This is a HUD-mandated public hearing, which is why we're holding this tonight regarding this application. The City of Pocatello is a HUD entitlement community, and as such, we receive an annual federal appropriation through the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG. Through the CDBG program, we have adopted a 5-year consolidated plan which aims to maintain, preserve, and provide affordable housing for low and moderate income residents. To do this, the city operates its renewal grant and loan program, which provides grants of up to $5,000 to manufactured and single-family dwellings, as well as loans to single-family dwellings. The renewal program historically has offered down payment assistance, provided funds for acquisition of lots for infill development, and funding for demolition and clearance of lots for infill development. For the past several program years, the city's CDBG entitlement has steadily decreased. From program year 21 to 24, the program has experienced a nearly 19% decrease in funding. However, the need for the CDBG program has not decreased proportionally. To address the need and demand to both preserve our affordable housing stock, as well as create more housing for low and moderate income residents, the city is seeking a HUD price grant. This grant would allow for the expansion of the renewal program, including additional funding for repairs for qualifying manufactured homes, replacement of qualifying manufactured homes, improvements to public amenities that service these manufactured home communities, such as parks or water, sewer, and stormwater infrastructure, and acquisition of lots or parcels with existing manufactured housing communities or to construct new manufactured housing communities. Per the city's adopted CDBG Citizen Participation Plan, in accordance with HUD requirements, the city has posted a draft of the price grant application for a written comment period of at least 15 days and will conclude public comments with this hearing tonight. Copies of this application have been made available for the public to access at the Public Library, NeighborWorks Pocatello, Life Inc., the Housing Authority, City Hall, and on the city website. The comment period began on April 24th, 2024 at noon and concludes with this comment opportunity tonight. To date, we have received no written comments. Following tonight's hearing, all comments received will be reviewed and incorporated into the application as applicable. The final application will return to council at a future meeting for consideration of approval, so no action is needed tonight. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Brent?
Hi. Do you have an estimated dollar amount of the grant?
$6.75 million is our current estimate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Christine. Madam Clerk, have we received any correspondence in your office?
No correspondence.
Okay, thank you. Then we would look for any testimony supporting the application. Any testimony uncommitted to the application? Any testimony opposed to the application?
Nikki Tayson. Thank you. Again, I'm opposed because once again, we're dealing with unconstitutional taxation and federal funding and loss of controls. And to me, it's a matter of unfairness. I mean, we're taking from people who usually are honorably working and then giving it to a specific group of people, and that's unconstitutional. Again, I'm about everybody having, I want Little House on the Prairie back. I want everybody on their own land, their own home, their own well, their own garden, and helping each other like we used to be and as God established this country to be. And it's not gonna happen if we keep doing these kinds of things. I call on you as a council, as a mayor, and as attorneys, and as chief of police, to stand. And all the people in this community to stand. In love, truth, and righteousness peacefully back under our God that we made a pledge of allegiance to and our constitutional republic. God won't be mocked. We were given a sacred U.S. birthright and a sacred duty that comes with it, and sacred laws that we're to uphold, obey, and defend to the very laying down of our life if necessary, which multiple millions have done. I'm calling on you to lay your life on the line. Your time and your effort. I know you do put time and effort in. So do multiple people in this room. Some can't even afford to have a place to live or pay a water bill or buy food. I'm about we've got to come back to where God set this country up to be, or we will fail. And it's on the precipice of his justice and others coming against us. And I share it very humbly and with all my heart, mind, body, and soul back to the revolution with my ancestors, my sons, my scouts who earned Purple Hearts defending this country. On earth, peace, goodwill toward all creation. I share it humbly in the name of Jesus.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application? Okay. I don't see any reason for Christine to come back up. Thank you, Christine. I declare the public hearing closed. And we'll move, agenda item 9, as I mentioned earlier, has been pulled from the agenda, so we'll move to agenda item number 10. Public hearing, future land use map amendment, South Fifth Avenue. This time has been set aside for the council to hear comments from the public regarding a request by the City of Pocatello's Planning and Development Services Department to amend the future land use map for property along South Fifth Avenue between South Valley Road and Catslomitas Road. The proposed amendments seek to respond to existing as well as in progress or planned developments in the area. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request following a public hearing held on May 1st, 2024. I declare the public hearing opened. I guess I'm supposed to do that, right?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Jim Anglesey, Long Range Planner of the city. Before you is a city-initiated request to amend the future land use map on several properties along South Fifth Avenue between South Valley Road and Catslomitas Road. The request seeks to respond to existing as well as in progress or planned development in the area. And as requested, these amendments will reduce the level of nonconformities with corresponding zoning districts and existing development while maintaining the overall land use vision of the area. Since the meeting in the Planning and Zoning Commission, and since your packet was provided to you, we have been able to talk to some property owners that have requested changes in the land use designation map as in addition to what you have. And so we wanted to present that to you for consideration, namely the following parcels ending in 5902, 6601, 6600, and 5906 be left as industrial, and parcels ending in 5800 and 4801 be left as mixed use. Notice for this public hearing has met all state and local requirements. All affected property owners, as well as property owners within 300 feet of the external boundaries of land being considered, have been provided notice of the public hearing in order that they may provide comment on the proposed future land use map amendment. A public hearing was held on May 1st, where the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the proposed land use map amendments. And in consideration of the application, staff concludes that the proposed map amendment is compliant with Pocatello City Code. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Council, do you have any? Yes. Josh?
The properties that you identified as being a little bit different in our packet, I think there was a letter that was included on the next agenda item that discussed some of the zoning of one of the parcels for mixed use. For any property owners, are there any property owners who requested a different zoning consideration in the future land use map that did not have that accommodated?
Ones that were properly noticed, that we were able to do within this hearing were accommodated. Ones that were not, that were outside of the proposed changes as properly noticed, did not. But there were some that requested outside of what we were able to do for this public hearing. For that reason too, we did agree that we could bring another public hearing in the future to change those, to meet those requests as well.
Any other questions? Brent?
How many of those parcels were there that were not changed?
The ones that were not, there were three parcels that were not able to be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Are you in process of working with them now so that we can have that public hearing in the future?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Have we received any other correspondence
No.
that we do not know, Madam Clerk? Have we received any in your office?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to backtrack a little bit because there's so many different public hearings and things. I've got to make sure I follow the right one. This one, I need to ask council members, has there been any ex parte contacts in regards to this public hearing? Okay, thank you. Then we'll look for any testimony supporting the application. Any testimony uncommitted to the application?
I don't know where I stand on it.
Right there, and
Well,
you got a sign-up sheet and everything
yeah,
for
I
you.
signed up on the other, but I'm Mike Ennis, 7798 West Castle Meads. And I couldn't pull up the new map. It's just one that was sent to me. And it shows commercial in red on South 5th parcel. And at Castle Meads and heading south, that'd be commercial. And I asked for it to be mixed use, which includes commercial. And I think all this in red, and this is a suggestion, but for my property in particular, I like a mixed use. So along South 5th, it can be commercial, and then everything else can be residential or townhomes or whatever. But I think the city's restricting itself by going commercial versus mixed use, which includes commercial. Any questions? That's all I had, really. As far as the zoning,
Okay,
Mr.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor, may I ask one question?
if you'd like to.
Is that your property that you're referring to?
yeah,
Okay.
I'm purchasing it. I've had it under contract for 3 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway.
Oh, just a minute, Mike.
Do you know if you are one of the 3 people that the city has been working with to accommodate your
I've spoke
request?
to them. I don't know which ones they're pertaining to. You'd have to ask them.
Okay.
But anyway, I think it's a benefit to the city by going mixed use. It includes commercial.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any others uncommitted to the application? Okay, any opposed to the application?
Hello, my name is Ethan Ennis. I live here in Pocatello, and I grew up south of town on Castle Meads Road. I am opposed to the proposed map for many of the same reasons Mike Ennis is opposed. It does not make much sense to limit or attempt to restrict property owners in their own property and what they can develop or what they can promote as they sell or advertise their properties for sale. Mixed use makes the most sense. That includes residential all the way up to light industrial. And I've not heard in any of the correspondence what the reason is for the proposed designations. It seems ambiguous. I haven't found any kind of pattern or any kind of logic that made some properties industrial versus commercial versus the proposed mixed use. So I would recommend, unless there is a specific need to designate commercial or industrial use, leave it multi-use. Let the people manage their properties and develop their properties as they see fit. And if there's a extenuating circumstance, if someone did need to apply for full industrial, there's already mechanisms in place that would allow them to do that. So that's all I have. Thank you. Any questions?
No questions, thank you. Any others opposed to the application?
Nikki Taysom. I'm opposed for several things. One, I would like to have seen the map. I'm sorry I didn't have access to that, because I live down in that area as well. That's a large distance. Are you talking about South Valley Overpass? Is that the road you're talking about? Or is there a different South Valley Road?
This is South Fifth Avenue, not South Valley Road.
Oh, I thought you said South Valley Road when we were talking. And then clear down to Castellamitas. So I would like to see, because there's so many different kinds of businesses that have moved down there that are light industrial, mixed with apartment complexes, mixed with trailers. And then if you're wanting to change it from commercial general to industrial, what is the industrial going to be when you're going even higher than light industrial? And I know there's a proposal for a large apartment complex area down there, south towards the, where Paul Davis and Belmont and all those areas are. And so I just don't want laissez-faire development. I grew up with that in Alaska during the oil pipeline thing, and it was chaos, and it turned out terrible. And you have people living in apartments or trailers and then contending with traffic of commercial or industrial, that especially if you're dealing with school buses and children in areas, different kinds of traffic patterns. Those are my concerns. And so that's why I kind of wanted to see where specifically I would like to have seen a map presented so I can make a better decision. But based on that, that's why I'm opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application?
Frank Newting, 6346 Old Ranch Road. I have some clients that have been working on some development on South Fifth that have been ongoing for multiple years. And so they've already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in some of their development. And so this change could potentially affect them and their investment in the existing zoning that they had. So any zoning change should reflect that that investment or whatever has been done previously should be retroactive to their investment, if that is indeed the case.
Okay.
I'll face sign my name.
All right, you'll get your name there.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Any others opposed to the application?
Hi, my name is Idaho Law, and I've been opposed to anything or anybody lives that has the uranium materials, processed uranium materials all over that area, from the university all the way down to the highway. It's many, many tons and tons of uranium put there, and it's still there. And if some of it isn't there, then it's an issue of where did it went, who gave them permission to move it, and accountability. Otherwise, that's all illegal, dangerous, endangering of children, the students in the area, the residents of the area, and of course, anybody who might want to buy into the area. Because if you don't tell them, that's unethical as hell, right? Well, excuse the word, but yes, hell's kind of unethical anyways. But this is the situations we have here in Pocatello. You're never going to get rid of the title of most radioactive city in the world until you buckle down. Take some of the millions or billions I've offered this place before to clean it up, or suffer the consequences. Radioactive fertilizers. We're famous for everything here. And turning a deaf ear ain't going to do anything except make America very angry at you for poisoning it. The poisoning of America all focuses on Pocatello, Idaho. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll look for any others opposed to the application.
Dale Kirkham, Pocatello, Idaho. I'd like to echo what Mr. Newting said. We too are in the process of developing a road with our neighbor for a joint access, and we've got it all laid out with engineering and so forth to the county standard. We've actually visited with the planning and zoning and the building department here a little bit about it. It's not officially turned in, but if they go forward with the annexation that you're talking about tonight and this proposal, we would hope that there'd be some sort of buffer for some of these ongoing projects so that we don't get hit hard by a wider street, curbs and gutters that aren't part of the county standard. And we'd hope there might be some consideration along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application?
Mr. Mayor, can we just clarify this is for the land use map,
Yeah.
not the annexation?
Yes.
Kirk Valentine, 6286 South Fifth. I believe Jim actually addressed my concern. I did not see the map until today as far as your zoning goes. My two parcels down there right now are designated industrial, but it is my house and my pasture. Should be mixed use. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record that that does need to change before anything's, and I believe he already started off. Those are the two that needed to be dealt with, and making sure you guys knew I was here and listened to it.
Yeah, thank you. And he is back there nodding his head,
Yeah.
so, yeah. Okay, any others opposed to the application?
Weston Dykeman. We have a business on South Fifth. We've operated out there for about 6 years now. Last 2 to 3 years, we've been in several talks with county, Hal Jensen, sitting down with them talking about, it's called Dykeman Commercial Park going out there. We're trying to sell off some land, get some development going out there. I would just recommend what Mr. Kirkham said, some kind of a gap to help people that are, we're 2 years into this process, help us be able to finish the process that we've already started prior to just making us stop. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application?
I'm Dan Hargraves, 6053 South Fifth Avenue. And I've been working on my project for about 5 years out there. It was rezoned by the county to light industrial within the last 5 years. And based upon that zoning, we've been working on our plan to develop that property. And to change it now, at this stage, would change our whole game plan and what we've worked to try to do for the last 5 years. So we believe, and several of my neighbors, that the corridor along South Fifth should not be restricted to multi-use or residential. It's a lot of it, as you're well aware, there's all kinds of different patchworks of zoning within the impact area. And for those of us along South Fifth that have worked to try to make a plan to develop our property and then to have the city come in and tell us that it's going to be this zoning now, which puts our plans in a tailspin, we believe is not equitable. And that's my feeling.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So what is your property presently zoned?
Light industrial,
And what is being proposed?
multi-use residential.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No.
And I might add, sir, that it was just recently rezoned by the county to light industrial. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any others opposed to the application? Okay, then Jim, we'll have you come back up and
So those parcels that we presented to you for consideration to change what you have on the map, the four that we would recommend considering that's currently proposed mixed use be industrial does include Kirkham property and Hargraves property. And then as well as includes Kirk Valentine property, going from what's currently proposed on your map as industrial back to mixed use.
So
Josh and then Council President Lurick.
This entire corridor, I think as was appropriately described, is kind of a hodgepodge of different zonings between industrial, mixed use, commercial, depending on the needs of those property owners and what the projects that are in progress. It sounds like we've taken steps to try and address all those that were properly noticed before the hearing, as you described. For any of those that were not and are going to be addressed in a future public hearing, are there any considerations that would prevent or inhibit their ability to get one of those three zonings that are along that corridor obtained for their property?
Typically not. What we look at is if it, we don't want a patchwork of one parcel zone, a different parcel right next to it, and on and on and on. So we try and match zones of, areas of zones. And that's what's in the review criteria as well for a rezone. Does it match the zones around it? Does it match the development around it? And so as long as we can meet those criteria, then it would be fair to say that they could rezone or change the designation as needed.
Based on the properties that were described, and if you can't answer this, then that's fine, but based on the properties that were described, do you see any parcels that are going to struggle to obtain that? Can't answer it, then that's fine.
No. A lot of the ones that were described, we are recommending to change, just like the ones that have been described.
The ones that are not included, that were post-noticed?
We can get those changed in a future hearing.
Council President?
So I have two questions, but I just wanted to clarify the properties that you mentioned, I think Kirkham and Hargraves, and the zone that you're proposing does include industrial?
Yes, for those specific properties.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Then the other question I had is about the Mr. Innes, the red section on there and the proposal or the suggestion that be mixed use. If you could say a little bit about that.
That was one that wasn't notified
Okay.
sufficiently to include in this hearing because it wasn't proposed to be changed. It's currently designated as commercial for the one parcel that he's explaining. We will consider that in a future hearing if he chooses to.
Okay.
to
A
partner with
mixed
us on
use that would include commercial.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it would change from commercial to mixed use.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Cheatham, and then it looks like Brent.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Aisley, Mr. Kirkham described a concern about the difference in development standards between city and county. Could you elaborate on exactly what that could amount to for those landowners?
I don't know, where they're kind of in a limbo. I don't know how that will pan out. I'm not in that kind of scene in issuing permits like that. One of the staff here may be better answer that question. But for those that haven't pulled permits, I would say that they would come under the cities, unless there's some agreement made. But that's beyond me. I'm not sure how that would work.
Mr. Mayor, I see a hand waving in the back of the room. I'm wondering if Mr. Quayle could approach us and address that question.
Sure. He was just yawning, I think, and stretching. I don't think he was waving his hand and.
Didn't know I
You
raised
think
my
Mayor wasn't
hand.
volunteering to come up here?
I nod my head. I didn't know I raised my hands, but I can address some of that question. The difference right now, I know working with some developers out there, Mr. Hargraves and the Kirkhams. I've met with them a few months back too on theirs. The county, for instance, right now their minimum requirement for right-of-way is a 60-foot right-of-way. The cities is a 50-foot right-of-way. So there, as brought up as with curb and gutter, drainage and so forth is another one that could be there. I have talked with Mr. Hargraves and the Kirkhams on that particular property, saying that we could continue with what they've been doing. Depending on what they are, they hadn't decided yet if it was going to be a private road or a public road, which plays into it also. Whether it has swales or actual curb and gutter, or even placing a concrete barrier strip, a ribbon curb of some sort to protect the edges of the asphalt. Because we've got areas in town that we have not done that with, and you can see Johnny Creek and that. You get the truck traffic and stuff. If you don't have a barrier to hold that asphalt, you just bust the edges off too. So either way, you're gonna be paying something somewhere down the road, depending on what standards. But I told them that we could work with the standards we have and with their plans over the last, and I know Mr. Hargraves came in probably 8 or 9 years ago, looking at that same thing, and we had that same discussion at that time where they were wanting to hook into city services. So there could be the give and takes, but we plan on working the best we can to still have the roadways that is sufficient to carry the traffic that's needed, and drainage, because there is no drain pipes out there except for under the culverts under some of the roads and so forth. So we will be working with those developers and stuff. So I hope that answered the question.
Mayor, before you leave, I want to clarify. The concern was the city is asking for more right-of-way for roads, but the county's at 60 foot and the city's at 50 foot.
Yes, so there's 10 foot less minimum for the city at this time per our ordinance versus the county ordinances, for instance. I know one developer, they actually use that and they're getting ready. I brought up there as an apartment complex that's being there, and they're doing a 50-foot right-of-way through that way because of working with the county. I've worked with the county probably for 7 months now, going through some of these developments that we know is going to be in transition. So we've been trying to make that accommodations the best we can.
Mr. Mayor, if I may follow up, are there other development standards besides the roads themselves that the county would not impose that the city might?
Just some of the, I'm not quite sure that, because we fall under the same kind of the stormwater. We may have our stormwater may be a little bit more restrictive through our master plan versus what they have adopted. Grading should be about the same. I know for what they're doing is what I understand between the two grading. In fact, about 8 years ago, I sat down with the county engineer at the time, and he actually took the stuff that we had and adopted a lot of our practices to them. Then there's the sewer and water that will come along with that. The extension of the sewers and waters, depending on the type of development, again, whether it is private or public. And we just got an apartment complex, townhomes that was built down there. It has a private meter, and it's and private sewer lift station and so forth in there. The only thing that we provided was the connections at the roadway, because that development wanted to remain in the private entity, and it did not require a road for looping or anything like that for fire. So we were able to, and again, that was in the county. I did work with them on that plan to fulfill that, what they wanted to do with theirs. I think the standards, you know, the building standards may play into it a little bit more, and I can't answer that fully.
Looks like Jim's ready to answer that.
As far as planning goes, you'll have additional landscaping standards, minimum lot size standards, setback standards that will be different. Any sidewalk requirements that Public Works may require as well. And so those will be different from the county.
Thank you.
Brent.
Hi, Jim. Hey, Jim, could you clarify the zoning situation regarding, is it Mr. Hargraves, the fellow in the blue shirt back there? Did I get your name right? Yes, sir. Yeah, could you?
For the future land use designation?
Yes. Could you explain that, please?
Yeah, he's one of the ones that I had discussed, reverting what we currently have in your map as mixed use back to what it currently is on the map as industrial, as requested.
Okay, very good, thank you.
So his property would be satisfied in the next public hearing that you're going to bring with these three?
In this one, with those 6 parcels for your consideration to change.
Already incorporated.
Oh, they're incorporated, okay.
Great,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, do you have any other clarifying?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, then, with that, I declare the public hearing closed. Council, this item's before you. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would move that we approve agenda item number 10 to amend the future land use map as outlined, as including the parcels brought by Jim for our consideration.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mansfield and a second by Lyric. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Mansfield,
Yes.
Lorick,
Yes.
Cheatham,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move to agenda item 11, public hearing annexation South Fifth Avenue. This time has been set aside for the council to hear comments from the public regarding a request by the City of Pocatello's Engineering Department and Planning and Development Services Department to annex and zone property along South Fifth Avenue between South Valley Road and Catskill Road. The subject land consists of 500 acres, more or less, which includes 153 parcels of privately owned land and 6 parcels of publicly owned land. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of the request following a public hearing held on May 1, 2024. I declare the public hearing open. Looks like we get to talk to Merrill first.
Mayor and council, first question is if you wanted to see the maps. If we need to see maps and that, we can get stuff set up while I'm doing my first part of the presentation.
The map's different than our packet.
Are they,
Just on the big
they
screen.
would be
if
on
you
a
needed
big
them.
screen opposed to in on our screens here?
Yeah,
Sure, why not?
okay.
Everybody's going, yeah, sure, why not? So, yeah, let's
Set
do
up While
it.
I do mine there. And then just one clarification for a start to the sidewalks as we brought up, Jim brought up. Sidewalks, the last few developments that the county has done, again, given my recommendations and what they've done, have required the sidewalks to be placed at this time. So the county has been doing that under the recommendations of what I've been giving them as moving forward, because their standards don't require those type of amenities. Okay, so Mayor and Council, Merrill Quayle, Public Works Engineer for the City of Pocatello. Before you tonight is a city-initiated annexation request. A short background why the city is the applicant, and I am speaking as the applicant for this annexation request. The South Fifth Corridor has been looked at for many years and discussed between the city and the county staff. The question, how should this corridor be developed, is always asked. And in discussion between the city and the county, the answer comes back that the city is better equipped for planning and development of this area. A development under the county as continued, the city has requested from the county commissioners over time to partner with grants to provide improvements for pedestrians that are often seen walking the corridor from Pocatello Regional Transit, the Bandit County Jail, and even as far as Century High School and other locations. Part of the commissioners would not partner with the city on the grants, but said that they would provide support letters if the city desired. This does not help where the city cannot be the applicant for grants outside of the city's jurisdiction for these type of improvements. During these conversations, it's been mentioned by county commissioners, this city should just annex the area. There has been past testimony. We'll go back to the annex of the area, and that's what we have been working on this with the county for, and the county planning department and that for a couple of years now. And there has been there's past testimony concerning about private wells that past development in the area pertaining to contamination of nitrates or even water availability. There have been presentations about nitrate issues due to private septic systems, past and present, identified in the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality 2020 nitrate priority areas and called out as the Black Cliffs nitrate priority areas. The city water is pumped to this area and does not draw water from this section of the aquifer. In 2016, a 1 million gallon tank was constructed and brought online to provide potable and fire storage water to the area. If annexation, this area would facilitate opportunities for city to apply for grants to extend city utilities to these branches off areas currently not being served by the county and by these utilities. With two interchanges accessing from either end of the corridor of I-15, this area lends to more options for development that could not be possible in the county setting. To reiterate, having the area annexed would facilitate in applying for grant opportunities and establishing an organized development process with correlating and appropriate zoning districts for development. The completion of the proposed annexation boundary described by the city surveyor, the total annexed area would be, at this time, 482.88 acres, more or less, after the final description we've completed so far. And to speak about the infrastructure and hopefully answer some of the questions that might be asked about tonight's public hearing. Water services. The property owners are encouraged to connect to city water if currently available, but is not required. However, if a connection is made, city requirements, standards, and fees will apply at the time of the connection. Sewer services. The property owners are encouraged to connect to the city sewer where available, but is not as required. However, once their individual systems fail, they will be required to hook to the city system All city requirements, standards, and fees will apply at the time of the connection. Sanitation services. Property owners are required to contact the city utility billing and sign up for city garbage pickup 30 days after the final reading of the ordinance if the annexation passes. There will be up to a $150 deposit required for each account per city code. If the commercial accounts require the sanitation trucks to enter the private property, a right of entry shall be signed and recorded at Bannock County Recording Office. The public streets and right-of-ways within the annexation will be under the jurisdiction of the City of Pocatello Street Department. Maintenance of the roads will be done by the city. Any private roads deemed essential will need to be brought to city standards as development occurs. All other city codes will apply. The area will be under the city fire and police protection areas. All existing buildings and/or businesses that meet county standards currently will fall under the definition of legal nonconforming if the annexation is approved. Existing animals, such as livestock, will also be considered legal nonconforming. There will be a letter which memorializes the existing conditions for the area in general and sent out to the property owners of record at the Bannock County if the annexation is also approved. Brent McLean and Jim Anglesey will represent as the city staff in the next presentations. This concludes my presentations and will be willing to answer any questions if the council may desire at this time.
Council President Lyric?
I just wanted to be clear about the services. You said city water and sewer would be encouraged?
Encouraged.
But sanitation services are required, is
Yes.
that correct?
That is correct.
But on the sewer, if they're on a septic system or something, once that fails, then they would be required
To hook up.
to hook up to city services?
That is correct. That's our city policy now and in the areas that we have annexed, for instance, to Johnny Creek in the 70s
Okay.
when it was done. Same thing that goes on there. If it's available, they'll hook up or, anyway.
And one other question, one thing that you touched on, which for me is really at the heart of this whole annexation issue, is that this is really about water protection. And I was wondering if you could just explain that a little bit more. The nitrates and the issues that we have right now that are a problem for our water.
I can do that to the best of my ability on that. As pointed out in the DEQ 2020 reports there, this area is identified as a problem. And trying to get this in a city setting, to be able to get the grants put together and to be able to extend those utilities to these areas to start eliminating, because more and more as it brought up the apartments that are coming in, different things, different densities, want more density than the county can provide in these areas, will need to be brought in on the city system and piped to the treatment plant. And in doing this, we can start to eliminate failing systems, identified problem areas, and so forth to the system. So, and in turn, another part is if we have the water extended there and as stuff comes forward, they can hook to the city water system too that's pumped there, and we're not drawing from this area, so that the natural processes can over time rejuvenate itself and take care of itself. I hope that's a very high level, but I hope it answered your questions.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Councilmember Paulson and then Councilmember Cheatham.
Yeah, I just want to repeat the question that I asked earlier now that people are here. With the annexation bill from the legislature, if, like looking through this, it says that all the criteria are met, legislation takes effect July 1st, which is more restrictive. Why is the recommendation to wait until after that?
I believe Brent McLean will answer that in his presentation, if we could wait till then.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, as Mr. Quayle was going through his presentation, he jogged my memory. I had about a 30-second conversation with a member that's currently in the audience that concerned those deposits that are going to be required, and I forgot about it when you asked earlier about disclosure. So just so the audience knows, I had forgotten I had that conversation until Mara was talking.
Okay, thank you. This is, and that's okay, this is not quasi judicial, this one's a legislative, but good for everybody to know they had those, so, thank you. Okay? All right, thank you. Then we would look for staff.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Brent McLean. I'm the Planning and Development Services Director for the City of Pocatello. And I wanted to address Councilmember Paulson's question regarding the state statute. So when this item was brought to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they did recommend a denial. And the reason for that denial is they felt that with the change in the state statute, that it's something that the city should wait for this application. And so that was the reasoning behind their denial. And I just want to give a little bit of background and feedback in relation to that change. So first off, I think it's really important that we establish the timeline of this whole process. We started discussing with the county a couple years ago the development in this area, having discussions about the future of this area. And through that process, city staff has worked on the lead up to getting the data that we need to analyze the area, what would be appropriate to annex at this time, what parcels had city connections and city services, which ones did not, and areas that people who were interested in annexation but couldn't because they weren't contiguous. So there's a lot of lead up to that discussion. And then on September 14th, 2023, we had a work session here with City Council to present some of those findings that we had. And we got direction from you as a City Council to move forward with this annexation process. In December of 2023, a letter of city's intent was sent to annex properties in the South Fifth area to affected property owners with the annexation plan that is required to be developed as part of the annexation for Category B annexation. And then March 2024, we sent letters to the affected property owners with a revised annexation map. And then in April 11th, 2024, we came back to the council to discuss the revised annexation map and other items of concerns or issues with the annexation. So this is not some gut reaction to new state statute. This is something that we've been working on starting years ago and actively working on well before the introduction of any changes to the state statute. Now, in regards to the state statute, in doing an analysis of what the state statute is going to change to, just trying to see how this annexation would be affected. The thing that, the main differences as far as the annexation will go, annexations after January or July 1st, the annexation plan would have to be adopted by the City Council. That requires a hearing process and an adoption from the council prior to us bringing an annexation ordinance forward. The other thing that changed it significantly is in the requirements of percentage. And so one of the things that is interesting to look at is the new state statute would require, it says landowners representing 60% of parcels and at least 50% of the area proposed for annexation give voluntary consent. And so, as we ran the numbers in relations to these new numbers that we're going to have to abide by, this annexation includes 63% of parcels and 76.7% of area giving consent. So we would meet the criteria of the new proposed state statute. So if we were to wait, what that would do, it just delays what we're going to do. We would have to take the time to adopt the annexation plan, which we've already done and accepted. We'd have to look at it and revise it according to the new state statute and send that out for adoption by the city council. And then we would have to go and repost and advertise the hearing at both Planning Commission and City Council to get to the same point where we are right now. And so that's why we brought this forward, even with the recommendation of denial from the Planning Commission, because even with the new state statute, we would adhere to all the same rules and regulations. It wouldn't change a thing as far as what we would annex and what we could annex.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry to
Council
interrupt.
President
Could you
Lyric.
just repeat those numbers that
Sure.
we're at now?
Sure. So the percentage of the number of parcels is required 60%. We're at 63%.
63?
And the percentage of area is 50%, and we are just over 76% of area.
Okay, thank you.
So both of those items are well within what would be required.
Okay.
Any questions about that?
Brent?
So have the consent percentage numbers changed much, if at all, since we had our work session?
That's a great question. Did we?
No. That includes those that have provided written consent and those with implied consent or that they're connected, has remained the same since our work session.
And I think it's important to clarify what consent means. So it can be a written consent that they have agreed to that annexation, whether it be because they connected to services or just because they want to be annexed into the city, or if they have services, a sewer or water line or both, that is what is considered in statute a implied consent, whether or not they want to be annexed. That is, the implied consent is an important element here, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay, Josh?
Implied consent is in no way affected by the new legislation either, correct?
No, the new legislation does not change the implied consent.
And they allow for the 60% of parcel owners and area both still allow implied consent?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Brent? Okay, Brent?
Just a clarification, as I look through the planning and zoning's finding of facts, so it looks like they found this annexation like compliant in all areas. Is that right? Just except for, they suggested that we wait until after July 1st.
That
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jim?
Mayor and Council, Jim Anglesey, Long Range Planner for the city. This annexation along South Fifth between South Valley Road and Catskill Road consists of 154 parcels of privately owned land and 6 parcels of publicly owned land. 38 of the parcels and a portion of one are designated residential on the city's future land use map. 38 parcels and a portion of one are proposed to be zoned residential medium-density single-family, and a portion of one is proposed to be zoned residential low-density. 92 of the parcels and a portion of one are designated mixed use on the city's future land use map and are proposed to be zoned residential commercial professional. And one of the parcels are designated commercial on the city's future land use map and is proposed to be zoned commercial general. 28 of the parcels are designated industrial on the city's future land use map and are proposed to be zoned light industrial. The annexation request is in statutory compliance with Idaho State Code, Section 50-222, as a Category B annexation, which allows annexation to take place in circumstances where the subject land contains more than 100 separate private ownerships and platted lots of record, and where landowners owning more than 50% of the area of the subject private land have consented to annexation. As proposed, the subject property is within the adopted area of city impact and lies contiguous to the City of Pocatello municipal boundary. The subject land includes property owners who have either provided written consent, implied consent, or no consent to the proposed annexation. And like in the previous agenda item, the four that were proposed to be mixed use, and we've agreed to designate it as industrial. That will be changed from your map if you wish to consider to a zoning of light industrial. And the two that were changed from industrial to mixed use, be zoned RCP to fit those the corresponding zones. A public hearing was held on May 1st where the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of the annexation. And in consideration of the application, staff concludes that the proposed annexation is compliant with Pocatello City Code. This concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Questions for Jim? Jim, have we received any written correspondence in your office that we have not seen?
No.
Okay, Madam Clerk, have we received any in
No
your office we have not received? Okay, thank you. Brent, I'll ask you the same question. Have we received it in your office?
No, I just
Oh,
need my
you're coming to get glasses. I thought you wanted to say something. All right. We'll look for any testimony supporting the application. Any testimony uncommitted to the application?
I'm Maria Moser. I live at 3993 North Gateway Drive. I am part of the Gateway Water Association. My question is why the $150 deposit? When I first moved to the city in '89, I paid the city a deposit fee. I've never gotten that back. My husband moved here in '91. He paid a deposit fee. He's never gotten that back. Now we live out there. We have been on city water and sewer since the creation of Century High School. Our bill comes directly withdrawn from our bank account. It's never been late. It's never been defaulted. Why do we need to pay $150 per household deposit? The other question that I have is pertaining to gutters and curbs. I am a hard-paying, tax-paying citizen. I can't afford to put that in myself. Out of the 13 households, only 2 people on that street work. The rest are all retired and on fixed income, and with today's economy, that is a huge burden. And I would welcome any grant, whether state or federal, to help us pay for this.
Thank you. Any others uncommitted to the application? Any opposed to the application? So let's do this. Let's go ahead and, you form a line. If, Ethan, if you would fill out that paperwork and then just hand it back.
All right, we'll create a line here.
And we got a line. I figured that some of you might be interested in this, so. It's always exciting to see a room full of people involved, and then you realize why, and so it's nice to have you here.
Again, my name is Ethan Ennis. I live here in Pocatello. My affected property is at the bottom right end near that little pink toenail of the proposed annexed area. The address is 7804 Katzlamides Road. It's the first addressed property on Katzlamides. Parcel number ending 011401. I was out of town during the last few hearings and I've been catching up on the matter. I am opposed to annexation. Where I am at the southern end, and the larger parcels adjacent to my property owned by Gary Ratliff are already annexed into the city. I have the opportunity to annex down the road, being contiguous to city property. It doesn't make much sense why it was chosen to annex half of a road and not the other half. Perhaps it just was a nice line to be drawn, but I would be opposed to it. There's many properties south of me on South Fifth that, it's bare ground, and perhaps that was the consideration for not annexing those properties. Yeah, I don't see much of a reason to annex my property. I also don't see any kind of benefit that my property would be received. I do have a septic that is in great shape. My water comes from a well. I have great cost on sanitation with PSI. But I would see higher taxes being in a new tax district, and I don't see any reason to pay the higher taxes as being part of the city taxable area. So it doesn't make much sense, but where I'm contiguous, I already have the opportunity. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Now, we're not going to do a question answering on this time here, so thank you.
Mike Ennis, 7798 West Castlemedes. I echo everything Ethan said, and my property's right next to his. And we're at the lower end. There's only 3 properties, 3 residences on Castlemedes that's being annexed. We don't get any benefit to it. And I don't know what kind of timeline infrastructure would be in front of that hasn't been brought up, or what is the timeline that sewer and water be brought to the property, stubbed to the property, then it'd be metered, then we'd have to pay to hook up to it if we wanted to, or we'd be required to hook up to it, I guess. At least for the water. But then, as Ethan said, the increase in taxes. I get the aquifer issue. Every 5 years, we have grad students from ISU come out and test our well water. They've attributed the pollution that they're measuring, and they can tell where it came from. Decades ago, when they had the Corps of Engineers down there, and they had outhouses, tents and outhouses. I don't know if it was when they were building the interstate, whatever, but that's what they attribute the contamination to. What we have a dozen residences on Castlemedes that are on septic with leach fields. So I'm against that. Now, across Castlemedes, along South Fifth, that property, I don't have a problem with having annexed. And in taking, maybe in exchange for taking us off this annexation, his and mine, I offer over 3 acres. At the bottom of your annexation map, there's the next parcel is mine. It's 3.19 acres. You can annex that. It's up on the map. You can have that and annex it, and it runs along South Fifth. That offsets taking us off the annexation on Castlemedes, where I live. Any questions, Brian?
No. We're not going to do a question answering with a line of people behind us. Thank you.
I want to say your engineering employees, they're fantastic. They're very professional.
Thank you.
Rich Kirkham, 8055 Prospector. This year, the state legislature passed a new annexation statute, takes effect July 1st. During the zoning hearing, many board members were unaware of this new statute. After learning about it, they wisely chose to postpone deliberation on the annexation plan until after the new law takes effect, avoiding any appearance of exploiting outdated regulations. Idaho operates under Dillon's rule, which means that city governments derive authority solely from the state legislature. I question why the city wouldn't respect the new law by simply postponing the hearing for 46 days. Other cities of which I am aware have expressly postponed annexation efforts until the new law takes place. This makes our city appear suspect. In preparation for this hearing, I called State Representative Julie Young, sponsor of the legislation, and asked her why she introduced the bill and exactly what was the intent behind it. She told me that the new statute more closely reflects the actual annexation practices of most cities in Idaho at this time. She said the old statute allows for cities to force annexation with a simple majority of consenting property owners. The legislative intent of the new legislation is, and I quote from the legislation, to honor the right of private landowners to have a voice in their own governance, unquote. In partial response to that goal, the new legislation now requires, as was said, that landowners representing 2/3 of the parcels and at least 50% of the area proposed for annexation give voluntary consent. My calculator says 2/3 is 66%, not 60. State Representative Young sent me a copy of a survey, and this is from the 40 largest cities in Idaho, asking how they approach annexation, including our city. And I have copies for you. The majority of cities do not practice forced annexation, but instead they primarily respond to requests for annexation. The survey consists of 4 questions. One of those asks the size of lands that cities have annexed into their cities. With only the exception of Meridian and Rexburg, most cities annex very few acres. If the city of Pocatello proceeds with this annexation, it will be the largest Category B annexation reported by any city in Idaho in several decades. This makes the city of Pocatello not only look like they are ignoring the new statute, but also it makes Pocatello appear that they're making a last-minute land grab. Please vote to deny this application and postpone any further efforts until after July 1st, when the new law is in effect. This respects the rights of property owners and strengthens trust between the council and the citizens.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rob Kirkham. I live at 1075 Sagewood Place. I'd like to thank you guys for hearing the public on this issue. It's an important issue. As Rich mentioned, the state legislature passed a new annexation statute into law. The intent of that statute is not only to honor the right of private landowners to have a voice, but also to ensure that a critical mass of landowners agree to the annexation. The proposed annexation plan does not meet the criteria, in my opinion, and based on information I received from the city. Let me explain why. The statute requires 2 tests, or provides 2 tests to make sure that a majority of landowners are represented. First, the number of parcels consenting must represent 2/3 of the parcels being considered. So in a situation where you have 100 acres and each landowner owns 1 acre, you would need 66 landowners to consent. The second test is that the land involved must exceed 50% of the area proposed for annexation. So if those 66 landowners only own half an acre each for a total of 33 acres, then it would fail the second test. It has to be at least 50 acres. I did a public records request in order to find out which landowners have consented to this proposed annexation and which have not. And I thank the city council, city attorney for helping us get this information. I learned that 90 landowners have consented to annexation and 64 have not. That's 58%, based on my count. Under the outdated state regulations, cities are only required to have 50% of the land and 50% of the landowners' consent. The will of the legislature now is that cities must have 2/3, and 58% is short of that mark. So if you vote to approve this annexation plan tonight, you are ignoring the expressed will of the state legislature, even though technically the law does not take effect until July 1st. If you vote for this legislation, or if you vote for this plan, you will be exploiting outdated legislation and you will be defying our elected state representatives by moving forward. Please follow the wise counsel of the Planning and Zoning Commission and wait until the new annexation laws take effect.
Thank you.
Mike and Linda Beverlin, we live at 8765 West Shores Road. We're south of the South Valley Connector. We're not on South 5th. That's That's where we are. We have a 5-acre parcel. And it's off Stockman and Shores. We're one of the 2 homes with addresses on Shores. I want to go on record as opposing being put in the city because they're considering we gave approval because it's implied we have city water. We pay 1.5 times the city rate for that city water. We have PSI trash collection. We don't own access below us. We have an easement, and it's either 6 or 8 feet wide across the owner's property. There is no adjoining road. We have a hammerhead drive for fire trucks. We got that approved. And what this is going to cost us in dollars and cents, based on last year's mill levy and last year's property value, our taxes will increase $2,062.54. That is an estimate based on last year's mill levies and last year's property assessment by the county, or by, And we all know what the county assessor does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nikki Taysom, General Delivery, Pocatello, Idaho, 83201. I live just east and south of Darby Street, and I've seen different development going on, or planned development going on, and I'm opposed to this because, one, as mentioned, it's going to increase costs to the people who are currently under county law and taxation. The fees for the utilities are hugely expensive, and there are ways to address the situation of nitrates, of whatever that situation is, to a healthier standard and still keep people on private septic. Because they're different homes that have been built at different times, and also it's not just private homes. You've got other contamination around this area, like we referred to, slag everywhere, and big ag chemicals that are sprayed. I had a helicopter with 2 spray arms out the side go right along the juniper trees right above houses last summer, and nobody claimed who they were. We have standards that we need to be upholding, and development. We want things to be developed properly, and with you taking, just like we had the issue with the Craft Road annexation, you have people who have private businesses, private property, some are agricultural, some are private homes, and those things are all going to be impacted, and some might even lose those opportunities. And yes, you can put a condition in, but long story short, down the road, that something always changes with that, and people lose anyway. In regards to the road maintenance, the sidewalks, all of those things that you require in the city, I walk and ride a bike everywhere. Nobody plows their sidewalks or shovels them or sands them. People make fun of me for wearing my boots. That's why I wear them, because I can walk in anything. And so for your future development and at the county, I've asked no sidewalks at all, just make extra ride streets and have bike lanes and walking lanes with a curb. So the plows can go right down, and by the way, no offense, but county does a much better job of plowing. And when you're dealing with people going out to the school buses, especially down to south of town, and there's tons of traffic now increasing with all the apartments going in down there, it's going to be a lot bigger situation. And then regarding the already existing buildings and livestock legal, non-conforming, and then the water issue with the pollution, as well as requiring hookups, things like that. Anytime you give government control, you lose your freedom. No offense. But I've been in so many meetings here and in Chubbuck and in the county level.
Thank you, Nikki.
That we're being taken for a ride.
Good evening. Kevin Spencer, 4070 North Lower Road. I would like to start out by stating that I have spent the last 20 years as a volunteer for the Pocatello Valley Fire Department, also their code enforcement officer. That being said, I do know the qualifications and the handicaps of the Pocatello Fire Department. I've been on several fires with the city department, including the Charlotte Fire. The city department is a very professional unit. However, if they do not have a fire hydrant to connect to, they are quite handicapped, as they do not carry much water. If they arrive on a structure fire, the first thing they want to do is know where the fire hydrant is. Their trucks carry 750 gallons of water, so we'll be out of water within minutes. I have a letter from the City Fire Department stating that fact. It is with this information that I question the city's decision to change the original annexation map, which I have provided for you in your packet, to now include North Lower Road and Garten Road. These roads are at least a half mile from the nearest hydrant. Garten Road is also a private road, only 10 foot wide, which is not even wide enough to qualify for a driveway under county standards at this time. Please rethink this map, as those of us on these two roads will not have proper fire protection if annexed. We don't believe it is ethical or even legal to lessen our fire protection. Also, needless to say, we will be paying a great deal more in taxes and getting less in services. And as far as the water goes, yes, our wells have been high in nitrates over the past many years. But the last 2 years, our well has tested 0 nitrates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl Rogers, 4070 North Lower Road, Pocatello. I'm going to read this because otherwise I get really lost. As a resident of the area you are proposing for annexation, I and my neighbors are concerned with promised services. We have a great library, our own water and garbage, fire protection, and law enforcement. I am a retired fire commissioner and volunteer firefighter with the Pocatello Valley Fire Protection District. I have complete trust in this fire department. They know their district and bring water and backup water, knowing hydrants are scarce or not at all. The city is dependent on hydrants as they carry very limited water. We're almost a half mile from a hydrant. That's a long hose lay. With annexation, you cost this valuable fire district a considerable amount of taxing and levying monies used for needed and costly equipment. I have the estimate for me. You eliminate a portion of Fire District Commission seat Sub-District 3, requiring them to rezone the entire district to comply with Idaho Code to maintain 3 fire commissioners with equal territory. In 2007, you annexed Southern Hills Development, requiring the developer to install a 500,000 gallon water tank to be connectable to the city's 1 million gallon tank and a possible booster station. Is this still not a problem? Do we not have water problems still? Merrill Quell, Public Works, constantly referred to the grant money available to the city for curb and sidewalk improvements along South Fifth, as per Mayor Blatt's directive. The only pedestrian traffic in the area are people released from Bannock County Jail and Nikki Tayson. Please reconsider this annexation until you have a more viable plan in place that actually benefits everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just love it. This is Idaho law again. I just love it when people just dwell on as if the whole world is about annexation. Sounds like a war plan for the rest of the planet right now. Annexation. But let me tell you this, okay? We do have a constitution, no matter what the Idaho legislature changes or try to make changes, until they're challenged and go to court and decided otherwise, possibly. But if I remember correctly, even in the Idaho Constitution, life comes first. Not annexation, life. Our public health and welfare come above what you're doing, what you're talking about, what you're dealing with here, as if that's the center of the universe here. I want to make sure what I say goes on record, because ultimately you are breaking the law. Criminal abuse, criminal neglect, criminal endangerment, tantamount to manslaughter because of your ignorance and your lack of focus about the health and welfare, above all the mediocrity that you deal with as the city council for whatever personal pocket money or buddy systems or whatever you do to enact anything. But that's where it's going to bite you in the butt, and it's going to bite you good. And I don't care, because I've done my part. I educate people and help people do that.
Excuse
So if
me,
you
are you
can't-
talking about annexation, or are you talking about
I
something
am
else?
talking about
Okay, that-
annexation, because public health and welfare supersedes it. Brian?
What was this? Carta,
Yes.
wait for just a second, please. Is that reasonable?
We're here to talk about the annexation on South Fifth Avenue.
Okay, we're talking annexation.
That's what I'm talking about.
We haven't heard, you started talking about
I'm
annexation.
talking about the
You
health
went
and
something
welfare,
else.
the safety for
So let's-
anything you do with annexation. You've annexated and had annexation of other parts of Pocatello.
Please focus on the annexation.
Okay, I
Thank
will
you.
end this by simply saying that you're better off, or these people are probably better off with Bannock County and staying with Bannock County than they are the city of Pocatello. Because at least Bannock County listened to me in the past. They did not put the uranium all over the roads of Bannock County. The other counties did, but not Bannock County. I knew people then. They were intelligent. They knew the dangers. They knew me as an expert. So, but this town, welcome, radioactive city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sign-in sheet, I'm going to leave it back up here.
Thank you.
Annexation decisions of this
I'm
magnitude.
Sorry, would you please state your name for those?
I signed up. Lydia Noble, Pocatello, Idaho. Annexation decisions of this magnitude should not be made without serious financial considerations. Council did not ask or require in a public setting any financial information prior to moving forward with this annexation or prior to this hearing. Only mentions of this plan were made by former Councilman Marchand last September when he cautioned that annexation of this property would have costs associated, referring to more than maintenance costs, as he knew there may be a possible need for more city personnel and increasing financial impacts to other city services. He also mentioned that potential zoning changes may change requirements for some city departments. None of this added cost was considered or examined by council in public. May 6th, a public record request requested the data used toward making this annexation decision. Provided were two rather trivial documents after having been made to wait due to a city extension. First, a mid-March email, well after annexation notifications, providing numbers of emergency calls in the South Fifth area for fire, EMS, and police for a 3-year period. Second, a map showing estimated roadway mileage brought under city maintenance by this annexation. No documents showing potential financial or personnel impacts to police, fire, sanitation, etc. No analytics from the city's newly purchased Dark Horse Analytics software documenting what the expansion of services would do to fire response times or call numbers. No data, zip, nothing. Where's the homework? Some perceive this annexation as about taxes because 90% of the annexation value will calculate into what the city can increase the tax levy by, beyond the 3%. But council was also told that most property taxes from this area are from residential properties, which will not cover the costs of added city services. Why didn't that trigger questions or further discussion with council? Cost-benefit analysis part of the argument, but cost-benefit does not equate to revenue dollars during your fiscal year 25 budget bill. How will you pay for these added services? Lastly, the above public record request also requested the 3 reported written consents received. Only 2 were provided, along with 15 utility implied consents. On an email this Tuesday requesting the missing written requests or written consents, yet this readily available document has still not been provided. That's a lack of transparency, pure and simple, and adds to my concerns and opposition regarding this hasty, poorly questioned, and poorly financially planned by council annexation application. Thank you.
Heather Disselkoon. The reasoning behind the annexation is sound. It's important to protect our aquifer, ensure that continuity of zoning and the development of South Fifth, which is critical to the future growth of our community. On that, we agree. Instead, my opposition results from factors that did not need to be a point of dispute tonight. I support the P&Z's Commission's decision to delay this annexation until after the recently adopted changes to Idaho law going into effect on July 1st. I'm concerned about some of the testimony given at the P&Z hearing that some larger parcels were bypassed, which can easily be perceived as an annexation strategy benefiting city, not public interest. The Idaho legislature is often negatively referred to in these chambers as an adversary, impeding your ability to govern on a local level. Remember, the legislature is the governmental body closest to the people. Most proposed legislation is in direct response to citizens advocating for change. Any legislation that is more restrictive to the city is a direct result of the public's belief a power granted to cities has somehow been abused. The public addresses that imbalance by advocating legislative bodies for new statutory limits to return balance between the interests of government and the interests of the people. That's what drove Senate Bill 1293. Understand this. This is not new legislation introduced this year, but dates back 4 years ago with an earlier, more stringent version introduced in 2020. AIC keeps you informed, so I'm confident the city is aware that changes to the annexation process were coming, and this legislative effort predates the city's initiation of this annexation project. I'm going to stop there because I am livid right now, and I do not know how all of you have forgotten, but I want to remind the council of what was said on April the 11th.
What about consent of parcels? So the parcels, we could probably do the math here, but total is 156, and then those that have consented is 55.7. 55.7 of parcels.
You know, and my concern here is the foolishness of 1293 as amended that the governor signed yesterday. This is exactly what we were trying to stop, is that from taking force and preventing these kind of annexations.
Right. The good thing is we're on track to complete this prior to that enactment.
Good.
So somebody tell me, how did those numbers change from April 11th to today? You should have remembered that.
Okay, I have 2 acres out here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, Charles Hacking. I live at 947 Tanning Lane, and I have 2 acres out there that just bare ground. But I'd like to first, before we see it annex it, you did a survey for businesses. I'd like to see something where you're gonna show us where you're gonna put some water and sewer lines and roads, because I don't see none of that. And the first thing you're gonna do is tax us, but if you don't give us any services, that's taxation without representation. So I wouldn't be, declined to fight it if I was gonna see some benefits from it. But if you're just gonna take it, okay, now you're in the city for 20 years, you gotta pay 15, 20% more property taxes for what? Nothing. I just assume it stayed in the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we go.
Well, I just think they're doing a zoning thing
Why not give us some information?
Suzanne Freeman. I'm at 7966 West Piedmont, which is just at the end of Lower Road, which is one of the ones that was thrown in at the last minute, basically. I totally agree with the taxation. You're not providing me anything. In fact, we're probably not even going to get our road plowed anymore if this goes through. And my big question is, say this annexation goes through, and then my septic tank goes out a week later. The closest city hookup is half a mile away. Are you guys gonna pay up to my property line, or am I gonna be stuck with that? Because that's a huge difference in cost. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard him call dibs, Dale.
My name is Triama Rodas. I live on 5290 South Fifth. My property's house is about 500 some feet away from the road. I got a right of way there, going up there 55 feet. And there's a lot of history out there on South Fifth. I've been out there 60 years, bought the place 55 years ago. And kind of nice out there. I like it out there. It's a lot of traffic anymore, stuff like that. And my main concern is one of them. I usually got more than one. Usually tell people how to do things, but that exit over there, I was reading that you, Mayor, 5 years ago said we was gonna do something with that exit 67 there. Well, Maverick opened up the truck stop out there.
Okay.
And nothing's ever done to it. And it's a dangerous situation out there. I come off that exit here a couple of weeks ago when I was coming off the interstate there. And I was almost on the side of the road next to the interstate there waiting for traffic to get through there. And there's a lot of traffic out there, especially now the South Valley and stuff like that. And and I talked to the engineer, state engineer over there about it. He told me something, and that nothing ever happened. And he was talking about putting a light there and stuff like that. And I don't think a light would work. They need to put another lane in there from the exit, coming from the interstate. Another lane. There's only one lane.
I hear what you're saying, but we're talking annexation here again, not.
That's a city. You know, before you go do all this other stuff, you need to fix that because there's a lot of traffic. And if you annex and stuff like that, you're gonna, there's probably gonna be more traffic, But that's just one, I just thought I'd bring that up, And I kind of, the Pocatello Valley Fire Department, I hate to see them, not getting their money because the city's gonna take over. And I think, they get, that's how they maintain their trucks and stuff like that. And whatever. Anyway, and along the interstate, another thing, I was down to Income the other day when they're fixing the interstate there. I know
Again, is this annexation?
Well, you're gonna annex it right to the interstate. But,
Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you a time or two. We stopped the time.
yeah.
You're out of time now.
I am? Oh.
Yeah, but if you would fill out that paperwork there, while we're waiting for Dell to come up, I'll just make a couple comments. We have done some things at the city there on that interchange there with pedestrian crossings and things like that. That has happened indeed. And where you're talking about, that's a state right of way. The city doesn't get any privileges on that at all, so.
Yeah, but you guys are talking about, I know you guys are talking about it, about who's gonna pay for that.
The 100% is state responsibility. Thank you. That's, state right of way. That's why our pedestrians have moved clear down a way outside of the state right of way. We've had those discussions with them. Thank you.
Got run over down the road there.
Thank you.
I'm signed in here, Dale Kirkham again. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys. I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live like that. And I want you to know that your staff are wonderful, and I consider them friends, and they are very good to work with, and I appreciate them a great deal. I'd like to talk about this politically, this annexation politically. 1976, I married my beautiful wife, who's sitting back here in the back row with and we moved into a little house on 5th Street. There was no water, there was no sewer, the well was dry. Long story. A lot of young kids lived out there at that time, but now the people that are still living out in there are old. I was right next door to Treon, where I lived. If this annexation goes through, there's a lot of people sitting at home tonight that this is going to hurt a lot. And when you come to them and say, first of all, where's your $850 for your garbage bin? And then their sewer fails, and where's the, you understand what I'm saying? It's going to hurt these people when they have to hook up to the sewer. And it's like she said, it's a half a mile down the road, and they don't have the money to do that, and the city's not going to do that. And I think the other part of the political annex, you need to look at this politically as members of the city council, is the optics of how this looks, as has been expressed, that you're trying to push this through on the old 50-222 and not use the new 52-222 or statute that's been passed. It looks bad politically. So I would, and I think this is what we were able to convince the planning and zoning people to see. There was only one of the planning and zoning that voted to go through with this. The rest voted no. I think they could see through this politically and saw that they need to back off and recommended that to you. I passed that recommendation on as a citizen that politically, I think you need to take a good hard look at this because it is going to hurt a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application? You've already spoken. Any others that have not already spoken opposed? Okay, then, we got one more.
My name's Caleb DeShaw, 5488 South Fifth, the property I'm representing. We sit right on the border of that big yellow square rectangle right in the middle. And my big concern is the access and development of that land. From what I can see, there's pretty minimal access besides the swath right next to our property, which unfortunately our house is right on the property line, right up against. And the way I see it from my experience of construction and road work, that's the only real route up there. And I like the, on top of that, I like the things that the county provides, the freedoms we have being in the county. Pretty much can do what we want within reason, obviously taking care of environment and everything. I don't stand to gain anything in this property being developed behind me. I don't want a 2-lane road right by my house, honestly. And man, that's pretty much my childhood home, born and raised there. Do believe the house that Kirkham was just talking about is the house that we now possess.
Have running water and sewer now?
We do have city water. Our well is still dry. We do have plans on fixing that.
Sorry to interrupt.
But yes, anyways, we do have fresh septic, brand new. It was developed 12, 15 years ago or so. We put it in. Pretty much this nestled in this little valley is this little slice of paradise that I've called home my entire life, and I do plan on inheriting it. And man, it's a nice little place. I really hate to see all the development go up around it. And then not to be rude, but have the city come in and tell me what I can and can't do on the property. It's a big problem for me. So, man, really consider this. I'd really like you guys to push this off till the new law passes so that the 2/3 majority can get our votes. You know, I don't think we should be accounted for by what water we're hooked to. I think we should be accounted for by what voice we have. And we're here voicing our oppositions to it. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others opposed to the application? Okay, then, Jim, Brent, Merrill.
We'll go in the order if we did the presentation, so I can either answer questions now or try to go through my notes first.
Would you go through your notes?
Okay. The first one with Ethan Ennis talked about, how we came up with that boundary there. There is one of the areas across the street on Fifth that has consent to annexed. We came straight across from that area there. And then the idea was to go up to at least 1,000 feet, if not further, off of each side of the road to start that corridor with the annexation. So that's how that was, and they fall within that as well as with Mike Ennis. The going through, hopefully, I just need to say this because it's the opposite side of what we've been hearing about the annexation and the new laws, that it appears and the perception is that we are pushing this. I would like to ask then, because of some other things in legislation that is imposed upon the city of Pocatello that has become quite a hardship, and other communities in the state. So I would like to just say, did the state legislation, are they trying to block the city of Pocatello's annexation? Because it was tabled. That legislation was tabled is when I started doing some research and looking. And then it was called another meeting and that to be able to vote on that, and is my understanding. Mrs. Beverland said that where she is in the 5 acres, and because we're hooked to water, we also have a recorded document with her property that they signed that said they would not contest annexation. So that's one of the 15 that was provided, I believe 15 or so. And the map change on Lower Road to acquire those properties, we did meet as a group there, and we were looking at that, and it was suggested asked why this wasn't in, and we didn't have that great of an answer because it was a small little area that was there. And with that question, it says, why don't we add that? The rest of the group did agree that that would come in. As far as the grants, as was brought up, the city is looking for grants. We've got a grant in that we're trying to apply for right now that the council approved to go through, which is a $16.5 million grant, which would help and assist to get utilities in this area and other utilities there. We applied for that grant knowing that this would be before the council, and hoping that it would be accepted so that we could continue to push for these grants to get utilities there. To bring up the question that Mrs. Freeman brought up, if her septic was to fail tomorrow and this was annexed, our ordinance says within 300 feet. They are further than 300 feet, we would work with the health department to give that letter again for our ordinance again. that they could do rehab or whatever, because that would fall under the health department at that time. However, we would continue to look for grants and budget and so forth as we go forward to take care of the utilities as we move forward there. It was brought up too about how the council did not do any budgetary looking at this. I would remind that we, as staff, did look at this, and on the April 11th, we brought that forward. We did bring up the talks, and there, I was not here at that meeting. I was in another meeting. I was not able to attend that, but it was there. Public Works Departments had discussed that in the past, and that was brought up in that meeting, in that work session. One of the questions was where is the third written consent? At that time, and on the 11th, that was there was going to be 3 consents that had to be written. However, that third consent, as we looked at it further, had the water that had been hooked up for clear back in the 50s and did not require the written consent because it was prior to the 2008 ruling in the annexation that had already given consent because they had been hooked up that long. And I know that's not part, Mayor, but I would like to say that you did help us with the Maverick, and we did add a lane there and the ADA requirements, like you said, within the preview that the city was able to, within our jurisdiction as that came in, and ITD would be required to do the remainder of the work. The $150 it's written in our ordinance to cover the first, to have a down payment as you move into a house, a cleaning deposit or so forth. Now, that is up for more discussion with the council if they wish to have that, but that's where that is found there. And I believe that is my notes. I hope I covered most of those questions, but and things that came up when across there. So if you have any other further questions for me, I'd be happy to answer, or we'll bring the other 2 up to answer questions.
Okay, questions for Merrill. Brent?
Hi, Merrill. We heard some concern that if this annexation goes through, that people might be required to, immediately put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk and have those expenses. That's not the case, is it?
No, that is not the case. They would not be required to do that. In fact, when I started in the engineering department a while back, the attorneys and that at the time, we worked out to where in such areas like this, and we have others on the north end of town and other areas that are the same way, we have what they call a real covenant. And until a project is defined and curb and gutter can go in, because if we started finding out that we started putting just sections of curb and gutter in, that how it was designed, it would be designed just for that frontage and not for the whole street, and would run into issues. So we have that covenant that could be signed if they get a building permit and it falls within that criteria, that we could kick the can down the road, for instance, on the curb and gutter. The other part, with the curb and gutter, it's triggered only by some of the improvements that they may or may not be doing on their, or may be doing on their properties. So it would not be required at that time, and we would be looking again for grants and different things for this area. Again, that grant that we were talking about is for access and some drainage and utilities that if we are successful in that, and if we're not, we will continue to find grants.
Follow up? Yes. We also heard some testimony about people that were in the county, of course, but on city water, and they were paying 1.5 times the a city rate. If they're annexed, does that then go back down to the regular city rate?
That is correct. They're within the city limits now, and their bill would be lowered. They would be paying the same as everybody else in the city limits.
All right, great.
Same with sewer and water.
So just a follow-up question on that. There are some that are already hooked up that are concerned about a $150 fee to hook up. Where I'm pretty confident with the ordinance, if they already have an existing account, then that 150 is not there, not required. But if you hook up to a new one, then it is. Is that correct?
That would be correct, and that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
I thought that was a $150 sanitation deposit.
It's the overall, isn't it?
In the initial
Maybe they
presentation,
were-
I understood it as sanitation services.
In the comments, they were talking about water hookup, and so.
Good evening, Tom Kirkman, Director of Public Services. The $150 deposit is an assurity, so that when you pay your final bill, if there's an outstanding balance, that $150 is used to cover that outstanding balance, and then you're credited back the rest. If you terminate the account, then you are refunded that $150.
Okay.
Can I ask Tom?
That was sanitation.
It's for all.
I think.
It's for all
all.
three.
It's for all.
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tom.
Tom, wait,
Oh, go ahead.
mine's for him. It was also stated by somebody that garbage or sanitation would cost $850. I was wondering what you had to say about that. 850?
No, so a typical cart at your residence is $22 per cart. And then depending on commercial accounts, they're a little over $100, $150.
100 to 150?
Is that
Okay.
88 for a 3-yard, 150 for a 6-yard for a
Okay.
commercial account.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
So then, Mayor, to clarify that, if they already have an account with the city of Pocatello, if they're on water or sewer, they already have an account, and they would not be charged that fee again to bring on the garbage.
I didn't think they would be. Okay. Was there another question down here? Okay. Thank you.
So I just wanted to make a comment regarding the new annexation statute with the state. It was referred to as a 2/3 requirement, and that number was the initial proposal, but what was actually adopted in the Second Amendment by the state legislature was a 60%. And so the number that they have proposed or have talked about is inaccurate. It was the original proposal, but it was reduced to 60%. I just want to clarify that. And if you have any other questions for me, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, Linda, Council President?
Yes, the gentleman who said that he calculated based on information requests, records requests, sorry, that he calculated 58%.
Correct. Yeah, and so that number was based off of private entities. If you factor in the government properties owned within these areas that have consent, that's where the actual number is. There's nothing in statute that requires us to break out private and public properties in the annexation. And so that number is accurate in relation to private property owners. But if you include all the public property that's included within the annexation as well, government properties, that's where the actual number comes from that we gave to you today.
And that number was 63?
Can I make a correction on that?
Go ahead.
The 58% is the number of total consenting parcels. The current legislation doesn't take number of parcels into consideration. If it's over 100 parcels, then it just looks at land area, over 50%.
Okay.
And so, regardless of the total percentage of parcels, that doesn't matter in the current legislation. What matters is the total area, which we have 74.99%. That's total consenting for the land area.
That is in the current statute. So if you look at what we're applying for right now, that is what matters to us.
But just to clarify, so the current statute is one thing, but even looking at the new numbers where it says 60% of parcels, then that's where the 63% comes in that we are at.
Yeah, we would
So we're
still-
exceeding it for the new legislation.
Correct.
Or we would be.
We would be.
And we're fine with the current legislation.
That is
We're
correct.
meeting that. Okay.
That's correct.
Just want to be clear.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you. Then with that, I declare the public hearing closed. Council, this item's before you. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I can pull this back up. I would make a motion that we approve the annexation on South Fifth Avenue as proposed in agenda item number 11. And that's all.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Before we vote, we have Josh, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment.
Brent?
Okay. The South Fifth Corridor being at the top of our aquifer means that it plays an outsized importance in terms of protection of the water health of the city. And I hope that your wells run and flow for decades to come, by all means. But for the tens of thousands of citizens that depend on public wells, we have to take into serious consideration our efforts in order to obtain funding and legislate moving forward and for future projects to protect water in this area. Even if the influence of those septic systems and wastewater systems that are currently in place are minimal today, I don't think that we should wait for a catastrophic disaster to affect public wells and continue to jeopardize the health of the tens of thousands of citizens who depend on this city council. This isn't to mention the other outsized impacts that come to the city with an increase of population and development in that area, regardless of whether or not it's in the city. It does not change the fact that those roads become more congested on the south end of town, that the infrastructure has an increased demand point, and that the access to the amenities that are offered in that area will increase in demand as well.
Okay, thank you. Brent? Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the motion there. I think there were 4 changes that have been proposed by Jim. Did I understand that correctly?
Right. We had some amendments, so my approval, I mean, my motion should say as amended.
So do you need Jim back up here, or is it the motion as amended?
With the amendments that you made for tonight. I move to approve with those amendments.
Yeah, the six parcels that we're recommending be zoned to match the designation.
Okay.
Okay, so it's both issues, but it is as amended?
Mhm.
And the second, okay with that?
Second agrees.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So before this is voted, is this voting on the annexation or is this shelving it?
No, this
for
is
a future
voting,
date?
this is voting on the annexation, to approve the annexation.
If I may clarify just a little bit on
Okay.
that, Mayor. So there's still 2 more steps in the annexation process. There'll be a council decision that memorializes your decision tonight, and then there'll be an ordinance, and those will happen at the next meeting. So really, the motion is to approve allowing staff to go forward with the process.
Okay.
Okay, and then it's,
And then you'll have the ordinance before you for another decision.
okay. All right. Okay, any other questions, comments? Then we have a motion by Council President Lyric and a second by Cheatham. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Lorick,
Yes.
Cheatham,
Yes.
Mansfield,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we have been here a long time. I'm going to take a break for a few minutes, so thank you. We'll be back in a few minutes.
I hope you're home.
After the break, we'll move to agenda item number 12 is FAA Airport Improvement Program Grant Application Airport. Council may wish to approve submission of a grant application to the FAA for the Airport Improvement Program FY 2024 annual entitlement in the amount of $233,662 and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review. The grant requires a 6.25% match, which will be funded using state grant funds and budgeted airport passenger facility charge, PFC, funds, and projected funds funded under the grant will be the project funded under the grant will be design and bidding of a taxi lane for hangar development.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move to approve the FAA Airport Improvement Program grant application, authorizing your signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review as listed in agenda item 12.
Second.
We have a motion by Cheatham and a second by Paulson. He beat you. He did beat you. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Lorick,
Yes.
Mansfield.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 13, Airport Resolution Lease Amendment, Cardin Aviation LLC. Council may wish to approve an amendment to the lease agreement between the city and Cardin Aviation for hangar property at the airport and authorize the mayor's signature on all applicable documents, subject to legal department review. The owners of the hangar have established a new LLC for the project, requiring a lease amendment with the updated lease Smarten Aviation LLC. No other changes to the lease are requested.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes?
I'd move for approval of agenda item 13, amending the Cardin Aviation lease to the updated leasee Smarten Aviation, authorizing your signature on all applicable documents subject to legal department review.
Second.
We have a motion by Mansfield and a second by Cheatham. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Mansfield.
Yes.
Cheatham.
Yes.
Lorick.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 14, Airport Lease Termination Resolution and Lease Agreement Airport. Council may wish to consider the following for terminal space at the airport and authorize the mayor's signature on all applicable documents subject to legal department review. A, approve the termination of the lease agreement between the City of Pocatello and SkyWest Airlines dated August 18, 2022, and if approved, B, adopt a resolution and approve a lease agreement between the City of Pocatello and Delta Airlines for exclusive and common use space inside the terminal. The lease term will commence immediately and expire September 4, 2026. The rental rate will be $7,910.03 per month, plus landing fees, and will be increased annually according to the CPI.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move for approval of the airport lease termination resolution and lease agreement, authorizing your signature on all applicable documents subject to legal department review, items A and B, as listed in agenda item 14.
Second.
We have a motion by Cheatham and a second by Lyric.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on that,
vote,
I'll ask
yes.
you a question. Is, to the best of your knowledge, is SkyWest still flying this, even though the airplane says Delta Airlines?
So SkyWest flies under contract for Delta.
Okay.
So yes, they do, they continue to fly. It's just now a Delta flight.
Thank you.
Yep. So we have a motion by Cheatham and a second by Lyric. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Cheatham.
Yes.
Lorick.
Yes.
Mansfield.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 15, Airport Professional Services Agreement Work Order, Ardera. Council may wish to approve execution of a work order between the City of Pocatello and Ardera in the amount of $244,240.25 and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review. Services provided under the work order will be design and building of a new taxi lane as well as a grant contract administration. The project will be funded with the federal AIP and stage grant funds, as well as budgeted airport passenger facility charge PFC funds, and is contingent upon grant award.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
I move that we approve the airport professional services agreement work order with Ardura as outlined in agenda item number 15, with your, and authorize your signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review.
Second.
We have a motion by President Lurick and a second by Cheatham. Brianna, could you please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Thank you. Agenda item 16, contract award and professional services agreement for Highline Road Project Keller Associates Incorporated. Council may wish to award the contract and approve the professional services agreement between the City of Pocatello and Keller Associates Incorporated for the drafting and design of updates to Highline Road, beginning at the intersection of Highline Road and El Rancho Boulevard, Pearl Street, and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review. The initial design is not to exceed $50,000 and will be funded from Fund 70.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
I move that we award the contract and approve a professional services agreement between City of Pocatello and Keller Associates, Inc., as outlined in agenda item number 16, and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review.
Second. With a question.
We have a motion by Lurick and a second by Cheatham and a question by Cheatham to start with, and then maybe Mansfield.
About a year ago, probably, we talked about Highline Road improvement. We applied for a grant, and we apparently were not successful. So I'm wondering if this might give us an edge up in a new grant application process.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. Becky Babb, Project Manager. It is our understanding that one of the reasons we didn't get the full amount on the local strategic initiatives grant is because we did not have a shovel-ready project. So this initial design will do the signal, and as far as the $2 million that we got, and then we'll continue to fund in stages the rest of that design so that we are more competitive for grants in the future for that project.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Of that $2 million that we were awarded, have we received that funds already?
Yes, we have.
Great.
Super. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion by Lurick and a second by Cheatham. Brianna, could you please call the roll?
Lorick?
Yes.
Cheatham?
Yes.
Mansfield?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 17, an ordinance. An ordinance approving an amendment to the fiscal year 2024 appropriations ordinance, increasing the total fiscal year expenditures by $3,307,353 to account for additional revenues, including grant funds received by the city, and to use previously unappropriated cash balances for unanticipated expenses incurred by the city. Council, how do you wish to have the ordinance read?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move the ordinance agenda item 17A be read only by title and placed on final passage for publication, and that only the ordinance summary sheet be submitted for publication.
Second. No, we need the
Oh, we need the whole on this, and the whole ordinance for publication, be submitted for publication.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mansfield and a second by Lurick. Brianna, could you please call the roll?
Mansfield?
Yes.
Lorick?
Yes.
Cheatham?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 17B, an ordinance. Oh, whoops, I guess that's right. I'm ahead of myself. I'm trying to move
Jared
this.
out of there.
Sorry, Jared. Jared, would you please read? Jared, would you please read the ordinance?
I'd be happy to, Mayor.
This is why they sit up next to me.
An ordinance of the City of Pocatello and Municipal Corporation of Idaho amending ordinance number 3128, the appropriation ordinance for the fiscal period October 1, 2023 through September 30, 2024, and amending ordinance number 3133, the amended appropriation ordinance dated January 18th, 2024, providing for an increase in expenditures in the following funds: General Fund, Liability Insurance Fund, Street Fund, Recreation Fund, Airport Fund, Library Fund, Science and Environment Fund, Sanitation Fund, Water Fund, Water Pollution Control, WPC Fund, Information Technology Fund, Fleet Fund, Utility Billing Fund, Workers Insurance Fund, and CDBG Grants Fund, which increases the total fiscal year expenditures by $3,307,353, providing that the revenue to pay for said increases shall be derived from grants, unexpected revenues, and previously unappropriated cash balances, providing that all other portions of ordinance number 3128 and number 3133 shall remain in full force and effect, providing that this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I declare that to be the final reading of the ordinance. Shall the ordinance pass?
Cheatham,
Yes.
Lorick. Yes. Mansfield,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Okay, now I can move to 17B. 17B, an ordinance amending Pocatello Municipal Code Title 15, Chapter 10, Fireworks Regulations to provide clarity, create continuity, and improve the function of the title.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, council?
Mr. Mayor, I move the ordinance agenda item 17B be read only by title and placed on final passage for publication, and that only the ordinance summary sheet be submitted for publication.
Second.
We have a motion by Cheatham, and Mansfield beat you out that time.
Of
course he did.
Of course he did. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Cheatham,
Yes.
Mansfield.
Yes.
Lorick,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Jared, would you please read this ordinance?
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Pocatello, Municipal Corporation of Idaho, amending Chapter 15.10 Fireworks Regulations of the revised and compiled ordinances of the City of Pocatello, 1983. More particularly by amending Chapter 15.10.020 Dangerous Fireworks and Special Fireworks, Chapter 15.10.030 Safe and Sane Fireworks and Common Fireworks, Chapter 15.10.040 Fireworks Permits Required, 15.10.050 Retail Sale of Safe and Sane Fireworks Application for Permit, Chapter 15.10.060 Contents of Application, Chapter 15.10.070 Requirements for Permit Issuance, Chapter 15.10.120 Sell Only at Temporary Fireworks Stands, and 15.10.130 Violation Seizure of Fireworks, to provide clarity, create continuity, and improve the function of the title, and providing that this ordinance and the provisions contained herein established pursuant to this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I declare that to be the final reading of the ordinance. Shall the ordinance pass?
Cheatham,
Yes.
Lorick.
Yes.
Mansfield.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 17C, an ordinance repealing ordinance number 3136, which annexed approximately 33 acres of land to extend the Pocatello city limits located along Craft Road and Gaithy Road. Council, how do you wish to have this ordinance read?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move the ordinance agenda item number 17C be read only by title and placed on final passage for publication, and that only the ordinance summary sheet be submitted for publication.
Second.
We have a motion by Mansfield, and you got him that time, Linda.
Oh, you're gonna give it to him?
I'll throw you a bone.
Thanks.
Second by Lyric. Aubriana, would you please call the roll?
Mansfield.
Yes.
Lorick.
Yes.
Cheatham,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Jared, would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Pocatello, a Municipal Corporation of Idaho, repealing ordinance number 3136, which annexed approximately 33 acres of land located along Craft Road and Gaithy Road, and zoned the subject land as residential medium-density multifamily, RMM, with concurrent comprehensive land use map designations of residential, commercial, professional, RCP, and providing an effective date from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I declare that to be the final reading of the ordinance. Shall the ordinance pass?
Cheatham,
Yes.
Lorick.
Yes.
Mansfield.
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 17D, an ordinance annexing approximately 36.16 acres of land to extend the Pocatello city limits along Craft Road and Gaithy Road. The subject property will be zoned with approximately 2 acres of land as residential medium-density multifamily RMM and approximately 34 acres as residential commercial professional RCP with concurrent comprehensive plan land use maps designation of residential R and mixed use MU. Council, how do you wish to have this ordinance read?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move the ordinance agenda item 17D be read only by title and placed on final passage for publication, and that only the ordinance summary sheet be submitted for publication.
Second.
We have a motion by Mansfield and a second by Lurick. Aubriana, could you please call the roll?
Mansfield?
Yes.
Lorick?
Yes.
Cheatham?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Thank you. Jared, would you please read the ordinance?
An ordinance of the City of Pocatello and Municipal Corporation of Idaho annexing and zoning approximately 36.16 acres of land located along Craft Road and Gaithy Road. Said property more particularly described in Exhibit A of this ordinance, providing for approximately 2 acres of land to be zoned residential medium-density multifamily, RMM, and approximately 34 acres of land to be zoned as residential commercial professional, RCP, with the concurrent comprehensive plan land use map designations of residential R and mixed use MU, providing for the city clerk to file a certified copy of this ordinance with the Idaho State Tax Commission and with the Bannock County Auditor, Treasurer, and Assessor in accordance with Idaho Code Sections 50-223 and 63-215, and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
I declare that to be the final reading of the ordinance. Shall the ordinance pass?
Cheatham?
Yes.
Lorick?
Yes.
Mansfield?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 18, items from the audience. This time has been set aside to hear items from the audience not listed on the agenda. Items which appear somewhere else on the agenda will not be discussed at this time. The council is not allowed to take any official action at this meeting on matters brought forward under this agenda item. Items will either be referred to the appropriate staff or scheduled on a subsequent agenda. You must sign in at the start of the meeting in order to be recognized. As a reminder, there's 15 minutes for this agenda item and 3 minutes per speaker. We have, let's see here. So I have a question. We have a number of people that have asked to speak on the ceasefire. We have a few that will not be able to be here. And I guess if you're talking on the ceasefire, is it going to be all of the same, or is there different points that are going to be brought up? I guess is kind of my question as respect to some that may not be done. It's totally up to you if you'd like to do that, but we'll go ahead and get started.
Ember.
Ember Marsh. We'll start with Ember, and then we'll go to Nikki.
Do you want me to sign in?
No, you're signed in here.
Okay. Hi, I am Ember Marsh. I'm 15 years old and a resident of Pocatello. I came here today with our local pro-Palestinian group, Pocatello for Palestine. We are an anti-Zionist grassroots movement working to end the violence and exploitation stemming from colonialism in all of its forms. We're working towards an anti-colonialist future in which all indigenous peoples of the world have sovereignty over their native land. From the Shoshone Bannock tribes to the people of Palestine, we will fight for our liberation, and we will fight to see a future free from colonialist rule. We have not protested for months and start coming to these meetings to patiently wait for a ceasefire to be signed, while genocide is being committed, while multiple genocides are being committed, that our local government has been silent about. Our movements will not be silenced. We will stand for the people of Palestine and the people of Congo and Sudan, because we know our liberation will not come unless it is the liberation of all of us. Like Maya Angelou said, the truth is, no one of us is free until all of us are free. And that means a ceasefire for Palestinians, the dissolving of apartheid states, workers' and women's rights, disability justice, and POC and queer liberation. That means decolonization and land back to the indigenous people of the world. That means land back to the Shoshone Bannock tribes, which in our local government are a second thought at best when it comes to enacting policies and running our local government. That means land back to the indigenous people in America. That means land back to the people of Palestine, to the people of Congo, and to the people of Sudan. All of you have some sort of social currency with the positions you're in, and yet you remain silent. Pocatello Pocatello's claim to be a multicultural and inclusive city is our multicultural inclusivity to that of settler colonialism and other racist bigotry. When you say that you're an inclusive, when you say that you're a multicultural, you must uphold these sentiments. But on issues that actually matter, what have we heard? Your silence is appalling. You all have a voice. Use it. History will not forgive you for being complacent in genocide. Sign the ceasefire and free the people of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Nikki Taysom.
Thank you. The preamble to the Constitution states, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty, to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution for the United States of America." The fourth article states, "The United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and an application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence." The sixth article, section 1 states, "The Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land." We said a pledge of allegiance, most in the room. This flag represents what we stand for. This Constitution is the supreme law of this land. We, the people of the United States, ensure domestic tranquility by our faith and obedience to what this flag stands for and what this law stands for and the lawgiver behind it. We have global chaos going on. The United States used to stand as the beacon because we stood true to this. And I oppose, like I said before, all violence, all immorality, all abuses, all drugs, all corruption, all STEM, all immorality, all especially abuses against children. I was reading the funeral notices, trying to find out if I'd lost a family member last night. Of all the different funeral homes all over the southeast Idaho area, there were more youth that we've lost due to suicide. We lost a youth due to diabetes situations. We are to secure our health and happiness, peace and prosperity by our obedience to these truths. As a Christian, constitutional, free, independent republic of we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, Zion, which means pure, under our God globally. And I call on you, your public servants. We the people are the sovereignty, you're the servants. And we spoke and were ignored. For the good of the whole, I call on you. My family are still under major, major retaliation. I am literally trying to validate losses of my family because of it, because of what I just referred to. Can we all lay down our arms? Can we all come to the table for what we stood for as a nation, what God called us to be? A beacon of light and peace and truth and righteousness globally for all creation.
Thank
I
you.
humbly in the name of Jesus.
Idaho law.
God will not be mocked.
Okay, once upon a time, we had a city employee here. His name is, maybe you can correct me if you can answer that, Cheesy. He worked for the city. And we were engaged in different issues, protection issues about the river, cleaning up dealing with the trench, as we call it, or the Pocatello chute. And I initiated a meeting with Chesney and the city, and I think it wasn't a city council meeting, I believe it was just a special meeting. And there was an event that took place at it, meaning I was speaking, and that's all it takes sometimes. And somebody lost their cool, Brian, and somebody pushed the panic button, which did not bring in the Special Tactics Division, but it was somebody who was trained in protocol for how to treat the situation if that button was pushed. And so my question is, I was here to deal with the two-headed fish, which made us national publicity, okay? on the, that was part of the project I was involved with. Not only that, the FOSS babies, the mutations of southeastern Idaho. Okay, these are the issues that help and happen here, and I tried to help with, because we ignore these issues of how they affect us in our community. So my question is, Brian, did you want to kill me when you pushed that button that they took away from you?
Carter, I'm not sure what you're talking about, and so continue on with your diatribe here, but I'm not sure what you're talking about, so go ahead.
That's all, that was the end. We were a room full of witnesses, a big room, and some of them were judges. So, we'll see. Thank you, Brian.
Hey, thank you. Felix, is it Lovelace?
First of all, I want to say it's past my bedtime and probably past all our bedtimes. So you don't, just try not to fall asleep, please. I do think I have something important to say. My beloved members of the City Council, thank you all for having me, for listening to me, and attempting not to fall asleep while doing so. I'm Felix Lovelace. I have lived in Idaho my whole life, Pocatello the majority of my life. I am a ISU graduate and a current voter. I also formerly served in MIAC and am invested in our local Jewish community here. So growing up in Idaho, I learned a lot of things. One of the key points of what I have learned living in Idaho, listening to people in Idaho, is what some of the things that the people of our great state value. One of those primary things seems to be independence from the federal government, financially and otherwise, as you have heard echoed here many times tonight. So, President Joe Biden is now calling for us to send another $1 billion in military, not humanitarian aid, to Israel to bankroll the continuing atrocities. Israel has no interest in a ceasefire or even in recovering their hostages. Instead of accepting the deal brokered by Qatar and Egypt, which Hamas has agreed to, they chose to continue with the ground invasion of Rafah against the advice of aid organizations worldwide and the majority of the UN. Now is the time to be independent thinkers. Don't follow the herd of other Idaho politicians listening to the ideas that are being brokered of this being anti-Semitism. This is not about Jewish people. This is about a state who has decided they needed to get rid of some people who were inconvenient. Don't follow the herd. Show Pocatello you value our tax dollars, our values, and our relatives in the military. Call for a ceasefire. Don't turn away, hold them accountable. I'd like to finish with a quote from American minister, lawyer, and youngest daughter of Martin Luther King Jr., Bernice King. Continue to speak out against all forms of injustice to yourselves and others, and you will set a mighty example for your children and for future generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Paul, and I'm sorry, I can't read your last name here.
Schmidtline. Mr. Mayor, City Council, thank you for waiting here this long to hear us. We appreciate you. I appreciate living in Pocatello. I've lived here since 1995. And it's a great city.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm supporting the Palestinian movement and our right to exercise the First Amendment. And I appreciate the police that are here. And every time I do go protest sometimes, and I feel safe in our city. I've gone to a mosque. I've seen our city police there, and I knew I was safe. It felt good. It felt good to pray with people from a different religion. It felt good to come here tonight and hear a prayer, and to meet with the city where people care about each other. Although it seems like, I don't know, just listening tonight, that there's some people that are concerned about their land. And that's all right, because as Americans, we should be concerned about our land and where we live. But I just wanted to take a second to say thanks for serving us. And I hope that we stay safe when we're out there protesting. I know that there's other campuses around America right now where there are people camping out and sitting in and protesting, and that may happen this fall. I hope you take time to think about and counsel your police officers that these are our children. My children may be protesting, and I want my children to be safe, and I feel like they will be safe here. But I would encourage, that to happen for our kids. And thank you for your service. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Paul. You know what, Council, we're gonna get through this. Rachel Steinkirk? Okay.
Thank you guys for hearing me and for staying late to have an audience portion. I'm here again to urge the City Council to consider passing a ceasefire resolution for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Palestine, which is especially urgent at this time when Rafah, which is the last safe place in Gaza, is now being evacuated and bombed. Me and my group, Pocatello for Palestine, have been advocating for this for months. And as I kind of told you guys last time, all of our other leaders and representatives are either ignoring us or telling us that their hands are tied on this issue. And so that's why we're coming to our most direct and most local representatives. Unlike the U.S., our Idaho U.S. senators and reps, you guys are not beholden to foreign lobby groups. You guys are not beholden to wealthy super PACs or defense manufacturers. You guys were elected democratically through grassroots advocacy, and you understand democracy at a local level, and that's why we're here, because your hands are not tied. You have a little bit of power in your community right now. My question for you is, in 10 years, how do you want to look back at this time when you had a little bit of power? Do you want to look back and say, well, there were genocides happening, but it wasn't my issue, it wasn't a local issue, my hands were tied? Or do you want to look back and know that even in the small town of Pocatello, you did everything you could to stop genocides happening, especially when now there's been 14,000 children who have been killed? We have language drafted for a ceasefire resolution. We're ready for you guys. All you would need to do is read it and pass it. You could join the Idaho Democratic Party that's already passed a ceasefire resolution. You could join many other cities, including Salt Lake, that's passed ceasefire resolutions. You could follow the example of your own city resolution from just a few years ago, where you're a welcoming and inclusive city. And you could follow the example of many universities around the country who are listening to their student protesters right now and who are divesting from arms dealers and from divesting from the apartheid state of Israel. So I just want to end with, yes, this is not a local issue, and we appreciate you guys hearing us, but there's so much that our town can do. There's so much support for this. We've been out there protesting for months, and it's growing and growing. We have so many people who are excited about this and feel passionate about this, and there's so much that Pocatello City can do.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to break my own rule, and I'm going to regret it, I'm sure. But we've only got two more. You've been here a long time, so let's just hear Doug Bundy. Is he still here? All right, let's jump down to Brandon Hepworth. You got nothing?
Did I sign up?
Yeah, you signed up right here. You don't want to say anything?
I got nothing.
It's late.
Where's his wife? His wife will not believe he did that. He said. Okay, thank you very much.
Got all the answers.
That's right. She's on the phone. She's got the answers. All right, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you for hanging out with us. I have to tell you, I appreciate the way the protests here work and happen. So thank you for doing what you do and exercising that right, that Constitution right. Our police officers will always be there to help and make sure that everybody is safe. They will always be there. So thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.